What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Age of Sigmar Saga of Dice podcast. I almost started it off like the battle reports. Um, so I'm, you know, I think I've got everything ready. I was telling Carson and Roman that I was kind of last minute today because of a doctor's appointment. So I should be all good to go. But we're doing the Soulblight Gravelords book review today. And with us, we got a special guest, Roman.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so you've probably seen Roman in the battle reports. He's been playing Beasts of Chaos mostly lately. But your true love, your one true love, is Soulblight
My,
Gravelords.
that's right. The thing that brought me back into Age of Sigmar.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like, would you mind telling us about your experience, kind of just like coming back into? I'm also going to be eating from time to time because I haven't eaten anything today. But would you mind telling us a little bit, like, about your kind of journey and whatnot?
Well,
Coming back.
I guess it was just I guess I'm a lapsed Warhammer player. I hadn't really played fantasy since it was fantasy.
Hmm.
I played lots of Empire and Ogres back then. But I had a group of people here in Vancouver that were playing, and I was looking for a new game to pick up when X-Wing kind of cratered. So I grabbed someone's secondhand Soulblight. I thought the army looked cool to play, and it turns out that it is kind of exactly my style. It's like spongy, it takes a hit well, it's got some control elements and some tricks, strong magic. So it ended up being kind of a happy accident that it's kind of like exactly how I enjoy playing the game.
It feels like the new edition is even more blue deck. Hey, even more controlly. Is that me?
I mean, not having played, I played a single game of second edition way back when, so I'm definitely not the person to ask for a comparison.
Well, I just meant like now in with the new book. There's much more of
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
controlling and stopping your opponent from kind of moving where they want to, charging where they want to, killing what they want to.
hmm it lost a lot of its movement tricks.
That's true. It lost well
Um,
for blood. Actually, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
that's right.
But
So
you're
I would say yes, I agree with you. It's become a little less gotcha and a little more kind of table control-y, like presence in space on the board kind of
that's
stuff.
that's kind of what I was sort of along the lines I was thinking
hmm
of. Okay, that's awesome. Well, first we will go into some news. A couple of small, very small pieces of news. The rumor engine. Did you guys get a chance to look at this thing?
I think it's a spider light for the new incarnate.
You think it's that would be so dope.
It could be like a
Oh,
Seraphon tail or something
Yeah,
as
it
well.
could
so
also be something for Tyranids even.
but they okay. So that was my first thought was Tyranids, right? To be honest, I'm looking at it right now for the first time. Like I didn't even
Yep.
scroll. I
I've
didn't get a chance to scroll
I'm
down.
inceptioning so I can keep track of the chat.
Nice, dope. So the the like my first thought was Tyranids, but it looks quite different than most of the other Tyranid stuff I've seen. But they literally said like that's all the new models for Seraphon, right?
Have
They
we seen? There was a leak today that I saw. Have we seen the new old, the Scar veteran on the?
on Agrodon we have, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that
So then the
one,
leak must have been the pieces of the kit, not the having seen the model at all.
oh, I didn't even see that leak. I've just been. I would love to see that though. Like I'm.
I'm not gonna try and track it down right
No
now, but
worries, no worries. Yeah,
you'll
I
find it
ordered.
on Reddit. It's somewhere.
Yeah, as soon as they showed the Agrodons, like literally the day of, I
hmm
ordered three of them, two Croxagors, and the Scarvet, and I ordered the Astrolith Bear, but I forgot to order the Skink Starseer,
Oh yeah.
which I did. I like emailed the local store again, and I was just like, hey, like, did I order all these things? And they're like, you forgot one thing. So yeah, I'm really in love with those new sculpts. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we know we're gonna see a bunch of new Tyranid sculpts, right?
hmm
Like like Necron's got like what was it, Carson? Like 14 new kits or something. roughly.
It was a lot, yeah.
It was a lot. So, okay, I'm gonna place a bet on this. It's probably wrong, right? But there was a rumor about some kind of upgraded Ultra Swarm Lord. That's what I want that to be. I want that to be his tail. So that's what I'm guessing.
It does have
I'm
kind
sure
of like
wrong.
a fleshy underside. Like,
That's the thing, though.
I know it's
Yeah.
probably not right, but I kind of almost get like an Ideneth like eel feel from it, like that kind of
Ooh,
body. I don't think
looks-
it's necessarily for Ideneth, but
That's
it looks like that kind of biological to me.
No, you're not wrong. Actually, it kind of looks like the tail of the Leviathan. Oh no, the Leviathan has like 1 second. It has like the segments, but that could be just a separate.
Yeah, so I don't know. Seraphon or Tyranids is where I think I'm landing with this.
Seraphon, Tyranids, IDK. I'll take all of it. I'd be super jazzed for any and all of that. Like all of the new Tyranid sculpts are killing it so hard. It's going to be really hard for me to concentrate on my dinosaurs.
Do you think this, like, totally out of field, like no evidence at all? Do you think this has to do with the like 7 or so models we haven't seen yet for the Dawnbringers stuff?
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I think this is gonna be the Seraphon one, to be honest. Like
Wait.
the one-off hero that happens or whatever.
Oh, wait, is that a thing for Dawnbringers? They all have like.
So they showed us like 4 or 5 models on the initial preview, and they said that there are going to be models for a dozen or so, or a dozen or more armies. Everybody's getting one for the campaign.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So like that new Herald of Nurgle on the cool horse.
Yeah.
There's going to be at least 12 armies getting upgrades of that kind.
Man.
So there's a bunch of reveals that like kind of don't make sense for books because they would have recently got them already.
Right.
Which I'm sure a lot of those are explained by, like, you remember that ogre hammer that we were talking about on stream? Like, that's almost definitely going to be.
That's got to be the ogre guy. Right.
Some people think that that's still going to be the fabled Warcry Maneater set. Alex, of course, says it's Iron Jaws because he's pretty one note.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Pretty one note is being generous.
I agree with him now. Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm back to. No, I'm gonna go with an IDK, Prince Lurian's Dragon Shark mount.
Cool.
You heard it here first. Thanks for joining us, Ledivicus, Alan, Sean, Roman, who's here in 2 places, Alex. Yeah. So Crab Claw is a great idea. It looks a little too skinny on one end. It really makes me think of like a tail, but I love IDK. I want crabs. I want what I really want is I really want a giant kraken, but I don't think that that one tapers too much, I think, for it to be a kraken. Yeah, and Alan says he's just played the new Soulblight Gravelords. Death Rattle Skelly's new rules for recursion are incredible. Big winners.
Yeah, he is exactly spot on.
That's a great call. And I'm so glad because like when the book came out originally, I was just like, I want to go all Skellies, and I was like, oh, they're not as good as I want them to be, and they take way more time to paint. So I didn't.
They were where I had landed in the 2nd edition book for my battle line by the end, but
they are cool. Like I like them.
They got much better.
It's true. I just need to get them some more painted. Alex just finished painting 4 Stormdrake Guard and a Knight Draconis. Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. What's up, Sean? So anyway, those are all great guesses. I like them all. And then they've been doing these previews for 40K. You know, I really love 40K. I don't really do it so much on the channel, but I'm really excited for the new edition, like, to say the least. I'm hoping to do some content, especially some narrative content, but they've been doing these kind of previews. I'm not going to like highlight anyone in particular, but if you're interested in 40K at all, if you maybe have an army that's been sitting around because you didn't really enjoy 9th edition so much like me, then you can check out these sort of daily or weekly previews they've been doing for every army. They're very light touch, you know, kind of zoomed out. They'll zoom in on a weapon and, you know, a couple of abilities, but it's just kind of fun and interesting. I just thought I'd highlight it before we start on that. And then there's the Warcry set is finally coming out. You know what's crazy about this thing too is, so you know there's like this terrain piece in here that's the Seraphon Ziggurat thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they literally said this is a conversion, you know? And I think what they were doing was like because remember that image leaked, right?
Yep.
And so that I think they were throwing everyone off the trail because they literally said this is a conversion. It's not a new model. But the good news is if you couldn't get this terrain piece normally, you can maybe find someone to sell you this or pick it up, and then you can finally have a what's it called, a solar engine or whatever.
And this is the set with those flesh eater baboons in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love them though, dude. I'm starting to regret selling my flesh eater court army, but I've got enough to tide me over for sure. Anyway, so there's some cool stuff coming. They kind of showed them. These are the baboons. Yeah, I love those though. Like they're so weird, but I mean that's what Age of Sigmar is all about, right?
Yeah.
And then some new Stormcast people. I kind of like the priest guy, but
it's like mostly existing hero types, but now in Thunderstrike armor, right?
yeah, pretty much. That's what it looks like to me as well. And then they're going to start selling speaking of vampires, the Askurgan Trueblades.
Yep, separately.
And the Claws of Karaknak or whatever. So, yeah. Did you just say easy for me to say?
No, he asked what you called him.
Yeah.
Alex says you should buy his Flesh Eater Courts.
I refuse, but thank you. I had a lot of them, and they were converted and all sorts of cool stuff. Okay, now I've got sort of an Inception type thing going on here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Why is it doing that? Actually, I know what to do about it. Boop, gone. And then we bring up the PDF. Okay, so Soulblight Gravelords.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. The chat's a little behind, or there's like a delay. So.
Hey. Okay.
Yeah. So, what is your view of the army? And I know Carson's had a chance now to look at the book as well. I would love to hear both of your thoughts on the book in general, starting with Roman, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
The book in general I think it's quite good. I think stats from recent events will prove that it's definitely not a weak army. It's got some stuff in it that needs some FAQs. It's got some stuff in it that probably needs some early nerfs. But it's strong. Soulblight with its second ed book wasn't doing badly. And there are very few things in this book that have gotten worse with the rewrite. So I think overall you're going to see it doing exactly what it used to do, but better.
I like it. Carson?
Yeah, so I've kind of been learning this book with a friend who's getting into Age of Sigmar with Soulblight. I got him the book for his birthday, and he, from the perspective of a new player, it seems to be like a pretty cool army as well, just because it's very forgiving, it's spongy, like Roman was saying earlier. And also there's just like tons of little one-off rules that you forget that you just kind of remember once in a while. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And it's just a thing that you get in addition. It's never like, my plans are foiled because I forgot this one thing. Like it's a lot of just like nice little things that add up to a ridiculous amount of buffs simultaneously.
Yeah,
so.
Forgiving is a very good way to describe the army.
Yeah.
It really is. Those are both really good points. I really like it. And so I was comparing before the Soulblight Gravelords 2.95 book because it came out just before 3 with 3 in mind. I was comparing it to Genestealer Cult in 40k because I think it was just the most balanced book that they ever designed when it came out, and it just like it was never too high and it was never too low, right? And the third one I really like. There's a couple of, like you said, like things that probably need getting looked at both ways, you could argue, and we'll get into that obviously, but I still think it's a great book. Like the new book is absolutely fantastic. Most of the like stuff that kind of felt bad as the Soulblight player are gone. And there's like, one or two things that they've taken away that a lot of us are lamenting. Blood Knights are no longer kind of as awesome, which is unfortunate because the models are so rad. But like overall, I think it's a way better book. The spell lore is so much better for vampires. Like there's so many like broad strokes wise. It's really cool. A lot of great detail, very thematic, and yeah, I think it's fantastic. So no mount traits though. I am disappointed about that. It looks like they're getting rid of mount traits. It seems like.
I don't know. I think it got cut for space.
Could be.
I think it's just a thing that ended up on the cutting room floor.
I was wondering if they're getting rid of mount traits and leaving them and just making them monstrous actions. Is what it seems like. Now, there's some noticeable exceptions like ogres, but it seems like as we go along, we get less mount traits and more monstrous actions like Seraphon, etc.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But anyway, so the Soulblight Gravelords battle traits or allegiance abilities. So first of all, you have to pick a bloodline, and they're pretty much all awesome. Like the only one that I don't really know anything about is Avangori because it's just not my. I just don't like the Avangori specific models personally, so I didn't look into them. But everything else, like I love. Like I could see taking literally every bloodline that I've looked into. So you have to pick one of those, and then you get more rules. Like this book is really mostly about the sub allegiances. It feels like, and then you get a couple. Everyone gets a couple or three rather, or four, I guess.
Right. Well, this book is back to like the second ed thing of locking artifacts and command traits into certain sub factions instead of just being a universal book you can pick from.
Although they did do that in the second edition book as well.
That's what I'm like. Yeah. But they've been eliminating that kind of thing with a lot of from a lot of the second ed books or from a lot of the third edition books that have come out since second edition. But at least now you have a small spread of options instead of being locked into a specific one.
Yeah. And they did it kind of with Seraphon, but it's just like two main sections. It doesn't feel as specific as these do. And yeah, I really like them overall. But so first of all, we've got Endless Legions. Now, how has Endless Legions changed since the last book, Roman?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest change is where in the turn it happens, because it used to happen in the battle shock phase right at the end of a turn, and now it happens at the end of the movement phase, which is kind of right in the middle of the action.
It really is, yeah.
It used to always work on a 5-up, and you would get a +1 to the roll per each enemy unit that was destroyed that turn. Mm-hmm. Now it's just a flat 4-up on the enemy turn and 3-up on your turn. And you can now you used to be able to deploy units that were returning wholly outside of 9 of enemy units, and then they could attempt to charge if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Now they just have to be wholly outside of 3. But they can't charge on the turn they come out, which is not usually what you want for your returning summonables anyway. And this has become just amazing for objective control and setting up screens after everything is done moving and you have kind of perfect table knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What do you like the changes, first of all?
Mm-hmm. Overall, yeah, I'd say they're very good. It, like I said at the beginning, it lets the army do what it was already doing, but better.
Yeah, it's true. Alan says, "Rip amethystine pinions." Yeah, we'll get to the spell lore. It really is a shame.
There's only really 3 things that I really miss from the second edition book, and that's one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. But at least other than amethystine pinions, anyway, we'll get to that in a second. I really like this because it's more static, and if you're getting just your butt beat in, right, by your opponent, and then it's like, okay, now I got to roll a 5-up to get half the unit back. You know what I mean? It's kind of rough. It didn't feel good, and it felt like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer when you're in the old style. But now it feels more like this is always kind of good.
It was a give and a take before, because with the last book, when you did manage to summon a unit back, you were kind of hoping for the double to play into another turn immediately so they could act, because they've been sheltered from your opponent's entire turn. Yeah. Now that they're popping out at the end of the enemy movement phase, an enemy with decent shooting can just take that resummon unit apart before it gets to do anything.
It's true. That's true. But then you can kind of do more with it, because you can summon them from a grave site. You don't have to put them right in front and make them a new screen, or
I think it's definitely a better way to do this rule.
Right.
It just has different things to think about. There's a different give and take than there used to be. The other change that I didn't say was that they don't have to come out of a gravesite anymore. When you're returning units to the table, they can also pop out of a hero.
Right. Yeah, that's better. Wait, I thought, or was it only gravesite before?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember that. That's cool.
I believe so. I've got my 2nd edition Battle Tome right here. Let's check.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. I have mine, but I don't know where it is. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's also the Unquiet Dead, and that's now is I don't think that's changed.
If there's a change there, it's so minor that I haven't noticed.
Right, and basically it just means you can put things to the side and pop them out of grave sites, essentially, if they're summonable, obviously. Nothing too interesting there, but it's a fun mechanic, and because the spread of the grave site is 12 inches, it's got a 12-inch radius, so you're covering like most of the battlefield if you kind of set them up in the, in the 4 kind of main corners. Then yeah, it's pretty easy to get them on there.
The little trippy thing for me with this battle trait that I've found since the change is that I'm used to having to put them down and sort of measure out to objectives, because it used to be your bubble for ward saves if your units weren't near characters.
Yep.
And your ward save is unlocked from that now, so there's a lot more freedom in where you put your grave sites down.
Thank Nagash. That was ridiculous, like having to keep them like you knew it was going to happen too, because everyone else, all the other deathless minions, factions like Nighthaunt have had it just a 6 up the whole army the whole time.
Yeah, it's
right?
like a Grand Alliance death thing now.
Exactly. They might as well make it that.
Darktron says they just faced Soulblight Gravelords this weekend and the new Battle Tome is strong. We agree with you.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's as strong as release gets, but it's definitely good.
No, and it does have, like, I played Castellite. There's a battle report up. I mean, I didn't play it. I certainly didn't play it perfectly, and I certainly didn't roll particularly well. But I put it into Matthias's OBR, and it felt like I was never in that battle report. Like he like I didn't kill it. I don't think I killed any units, and he just basically killed my whole army. It's wild. So I think it does have counters. Like I think it's gonna struggle in certain matchups, but yeah, it's nothing like gets on release, or there's actually been a few other ones where it needed like immediately, like, oh my god, like we need to do something. I mean, even Gits though, like Gits, they took like a month. They were like, yeah, it's fine, and I actually appreciated their light touch on Gits. Zombies are broken, huh? That's interesting. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of zombies.
Well, there was. So we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit, because I have a list that pivoted this last weekend that I pulled off of Twitter that had 140 zombies in it.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know that they're broken. I think they're straight up worse than they were, but they're like a discouragement now. It's hard to want to hit them, because they do kind of a soft version of what squigs do.
I think they're more in line with like almost the lore or feel of how. Anyway, I guess we'll get to that when we.
Yep. So next up.
So Deathly Invocation. Deathly Invocation's changed because it no longer depends on whether you are a Mortarch or a Vampire or one of these other silly things. It's just you pick a hero essentially, and you can up to 3. It's 3 units, right? Within 12 inches, wholly within, and then you can return up to 3 models or 3 wounds.
Yeah, and it used to be D3.
D3, exactly.
Wounds or models instead of 3.
And you used to be able to do like 4 of them if it was a Mortarch, and I think it was 18 inches when it was a Mortarch.
I've actually been meaning to check the wording on this. Just bear with me a second while I read through and compare to the old one, because in the old one, they FAQ'd it to clarify, to state that you did this for each hero. But I don't think you do that anymore.
Right. But then...
now, because now you're just picking 3. You're picking summonables.
Right.
Within 12 inches of friendly grave here.
So that's essentially worse than if you have a lot of heroes, right?
Okay. So I think we're waiting on an FAQ for this one because it looks to be the wording is the same as in the second ed battle tome, and in the second ed battle tome they clarify that you did this for each hero on the table.
Interesting.
So I don't we'll see when the FAQ hits.
And then just deathless minions, the whole army. Yep. But the important thing to note though is that this is an allegiance ability. And because it's an allegiance ability, if you ally something in, the allied units do not get the allegiance abilities of themselves or your army. So even if you ally something in that would have deathless minions like Night Haunt, they lose it when they come into Soulblight Gravelords, which is kind of crazy.
The only way to give your allies a ward save is to bring Nagash, who already eats up all your ally points. So what are you going to do?
Wait. So if you bring in, but Nagash is part of Soulblight Gravelords.
Oh, does he not eat? Does he not count as a?
No, he's in the tome.
An ally thing anymore?
No, he's not an ally.
Okay, well then, I mean, because he gives all death stuff a 5-up ward in a bubble around him, doesn't he? Now.
Oh, I think you're right.
Friendly death units. So as long as you can bring him in without eating up all your ally points, then sure, bring in some Night Haunt. Give him a ward save if you want to spend half your army on allies and Nagash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would ever do that. Like they're really sort of discouraging it, allying in general, it seems like. But what's up, Dan? Thanks for joining us. So why don't we move on to the lore, the spell lore here. I'm just going to adjust it. There we go. So the vampire spell lore got a huge overhaul in that it's like generally like the spells are better than they were. Like they're all three of them like I would take if I had enough, you know what I mean, spell slots. But we did lose a couple of we lost one good spell which was Amethystine Pinions.
And my only gripe here with the spell lore is that the army has so many wizards.
Yes.
That I find it's often hard to pick enough enough unique spells to manage to cast each time, because your foot vampires don't have a War Scroll spell.
It's so true.
So you end up I end up just sort of running into spell limits. I'm finding in my list, but I'm running like 6 castings, and it gets to be a lot. But I wish there was like one more spell in the vampire lore.
I mean, give us 6. Like every single hero is a caster in this army,
except for White Kings. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about White Kings. I don't own any. but like Mortarks, Necromancers, all the vampires. Oh, actually, I guess Chadakar isn't a caster.
Lots of the named ones aren't.
That's true. But anyway, my point's the same. It's like Skaven. When you take it away, you feel it even more. And sure, you can take general ones. Like you could have one with flaming weapon, whoop-de-doo, right? But
so here with spell lore, they took away Locus of Shaiish, which is the old thing where you got to double the effects on a 9, and now they just baked in an improved effect on every 9, natural 9+ for you Legion of Blood players, natural 9+.
Natural, yeah.
And
unmodified, yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah. So they baked in a stronger effect for each of the spells in both lores when you succeed on a 9+.
Which is really fun, but I literally never remembered to do it once, because most of the time I wasn't even casting. Like I would cast Amethystine Pinions, and I believe it was only on the caster.
It was only yourself, yeah.
And so it was like Soul Pike, maybe, you know what I mean? But now it might.
Well, and it didn't used to work on. Oh, it did work on. Okay, there was just a lot of the effects where it was kind of sloppy. It didn't really feel like you were ever really benefiting from being able to cast a lot of them twice.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Like the benefit wasn't big enough, and the fact that you could just forget should be pretty telling, I think, in that regard. But
couldn't agree more.
The new stuff, they seem good.
Yep.
So Soul Pike got a lift up to be a 12-foot range instead of 18.
12 foot.
Or sorry,
yeah,
2 foot.
I'm just kidding.
12 inches. And
you over there on that table.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The Imperial Guard Basilisk thing. Hit the next table over.
Yeah, 96 inches. That was crazy.
So yeah, Soul Pike is the inverse ogre charge, so you deal mortals on a 4-up to something that charges you, and you can pick 2 units if you roll the 9+. This used to be an 18-inch range, which made it a
Yeah.
little tricky to use.
Yep.
But now it is a 24-inch range, and it's much more forgiving.
Much more
Thank you for
forgiving.
phrasing it that way for us ogre players, because that's exactly what I thought too. I was just like, this is just reverse trampling charge. This
Well,
sucks.
I only play 3 armies, and ogres are one of them.
That's true. It does feel a little spiteful towards ogres, doesn't it?
I think it's just fair play, you know?
Yeah.
They hit you for mortals, you hit them for mortals, they shrug it off with a 5-up feel no pain, you shrug it off with a 6-up feel no pain, everybody hugs on the objective. It's great.
Yeah, for real. Oh, man. I think it's a cool spell. And then Vile Transference has gotten much better as well.
This is your anti-monster.
Although it
thing.
is much shorter range now. I think it used to be 12 and now it's 9.
Let's find out.
Yeah, let's find out. And it used to cap, and there was like so many if but not there, you know, before you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So this used to Vile Transference in the old book had a casting value of 4. It had a range of 6 inches.
6 inches. What? I remembered it being.
And you rolled a number of dice equal to half of the model's wound characteristics and did mortals on 6s.
Yeah.
So now you roll their full wound characteristic and do mortals on 5s
It's
at
so much
9
better.
inches instead of 6 inches.
Yeah. And then I don't. Is it capped for how many you can get back? It's not, right?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Good. Good. And then on modified 9, it goes from a 5 up to do mortals and heal yourself to 4s. It's so like this is so much more thematic. I love it.
Yeah. Well, this we'll talk about some Legion of Blood stuff in a bit, but this on top of the new hunger, turns a vampire lord and a zombie dragon into
So
just an absolute monster.
Monster.
Of a duelist. Like
Yeah.
you want to put it into a single high wound target, and then they'll never do enough damage to kill you.
It's crazy. It's crazy, especially with some artifacts and such.
Yeah, exactly. Why specifically Legion of Blood?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, our battle report is going up on Thursday.
Cool.
Soulblight Gravelords versus Idnith Deepkin. The tagline in it is going to be Soul Vampires versus regular vampires. But and then we've got Spirit Gale, casting value 7. And then it's just each enemy unit on the battlefield suffers 1 mortal wound, and if it's a 9+, just 2 mortal wounds. There's no rolling. Thank God. Like, get rid of all that stuff where you're rolling to see if you roll, to see if you get something.
This is a cool little fun effect for a vampire hero that you've got hiding out in the back of the table who's not going to do much else. Like, I like that they've given them a rangeless spell that you can just spam out each turn and try for
So
some chip
cool.
damage onto the table so that
Yeah.
a vampire with no shooting who's hiding can, like, contribute. But this also is very thematic for me. I immediately had an image of Nagash and having this spell because he is this sort of locus of death, and everything around him on the table slowly dies over the course of the game as he
That's
casts
true.
this spell in addition to everything else he's doing.
Well, and it is still an unmodified roll of 9 up. So
right, it's only
plus,
1 mortal wound.
Yeah, it's only exactly. So it's most of the time it's just 1 mortal wound, but it's tough to stop someone from casting it if, like Nagash or Arkan the Black, for example, who are just a bit of a power caster essentially.
Yeah,
right?
it's not strong, but it's fun and it's themey.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, and you use it to actually really good effect in our game.
Lucky effect, I think you mean.
Well, no, I mean, but like, yes and no. It's I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah,
right.
I think you did a great job.
Chip mortals add up.
They do, exactly, and
it's not nothing.
Exactly,
And for an army that has no shooting at all, beyond like Dragon's Breath, I think this is a nice thing to have to soften things up.
Absolument. Okay, so now we're on to the Necromancer Death Mage lore. As per before, this is still the better lore. Like, this stuff is like, I love them all. I think. Fading Vigor, has Fading Vigor changed? I don't think so. I mean, obviously the 9+ thing is subtract 2 from the attack's characteristic. Anyway, I'll read it out. Casting value 6, range at 18. Pick one enemy unit within range, subtract within range and visible to the caster. Subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of that unit's melee weapons to a minimum of 1 until your next hero phase. If the unmodified casting roll is 9 up, then you subtract 2. So like something like this on trolls, it's like even if you give the all-out attack from the Trog boss, they're still on 1 attack each. Right? Like that's pretty good. Pretty good.
It's the only looking back at the old version, the only way that it's changed is a slight nerf because the 9+ is subtract 2 from an attack's characteristic, and theoretically with the old version, if you double cast it on the 9+, you could choose to apply it to 2 different units.
Right. That's true. That's a good point. But it's still really strong.
It's still amazing.
Yeah. Like, oh man, I would just put it every time on my Necromancer.
Well, this was my staple to Manfred with the old book, was this spell.
Right. Yeah, I still don't have one painted. Yo, thanks, Willard. Thanks, man. So then Prison of Grief, also a really good spell. It's only 12 inches. Pick one enemy unit within range, visible caster until your next hero phase. The strike last effect. Unmodified casting roll 9 up, it makes it 24 inches. That's pretty dope. Like,
I think that's pretty dumb.
Really? What do you mean?
Well, if you're casting this and it matters, you're planning to have gotten in range anyway. So the only thing this is doing is maybe providing you with a convenient target of opportunity that's further away that you'd prefer to cast it on than what you were going to cast on. But as far as 9+s go, this one's kind of a letdown.
It's at least a Hail Mary though. Like it's kind of nice to have those once in a while.
You know, I hear both of you actually, and I just liked it because you could pick, like you'd be within 12, and you're like, well, I want to do it on them, but ideally I could do it on them. So then you roll it, and you don't have to say who it's going on, and then whether they choose whether to unbind or not, and then you can maybe pop it over there. Yeah, I hear what you're saying though. It would have been cooler. I think I agree with that. It would have been cooler if it was a higher casting value. Always 24 inches, and then if you get the 9 up or whatever, then it's 2 units or something like that. But it's still pretty cool. Like if you have it on
it's
someone,
certainly not a bad spell.
Yeah, if you have it on like Manfred, or for example, like he's a tank, so or tankier. You know what I mean? Because he's got the. Anyway,
well,
we'll get. He's not tankier than he was before.
He always strikes first anyway. Well, a lot of the time.
Exactly.
I guess this can keep it going.
Exactly, totally. So anyway, and then it's not my favorite spell. I think Fading Vigor is still first, and then I can't remember Waste Away off the top of my head. It's casting value 6, range 18. Pick one enemy unit within range until your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from the wound rolls. Oh, for melee weapons, that's right, and 1 from the damage characteristic as well.
This is my favorite spell.
No kidding.
In this lore, like this is
that's
nuts.
Amazing. That's amazing because it's not. Oh no, it is melee weapons. Never mind. I couldn't remember it was just melee weapons, but yeah. Ooh.
But this, for instance, coming off of Neferata, makes a unit that's hit you -1 to hit, -1 to wound, -1 damage.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh,
it's incredible.
Ledificus actually pointed something out. The attack modifier, the +1, comes after you modify the characteristic. I think you're referring to my comment about the trolls, and that's true because the spell goes down, reduces their attack's characteristic, and then the troll would add 1 after. I think you're right.
Okay.
I think that's how it works. But
I'll admit to being a little fuzzy on Git's timing windows.
Well, it's any timing window. So like, because there's a lot of units now where if you have, you can. It's a matter of when it gets applied. I think. I could be wrong. I'm
sure it's something we could hunt through the FAQs for and sort out if we needed to in the moment.
It is out there.
For the moment, we'll trust Todd.
Yeah. Trust in Todd. Yeah, or trust in Ledificus. Yeah. Or maybe he is Todd. I don't know. I'm having trouble following that. Yeah, I think Waste Away is my favorite, and then Fading Vigor. But Fading Vigor on some key targets, like that have high value attacks, but in lower numbers, is Like, that's so good. You know?
Yeah, Prison of Grief, that middle spell, feels to me like not a bad spell, but it's going to lose out a lot of the time just because the other two are much clearer use cases.
For sure.
So I think it's going to be not a bad choice, but the only okay choice amongst very good options.
That I can see that for sure. I think maybe Prison of Grief would be good on like a Necromancer that you're going to have in the back, and then every now and again, you know, you'll throw it out there, and if you get it, then you're like, hey, you reach out and touch someone, they don't get to fight until the end, and then it's just kind of a, you know, it's like a bonus, you know, for lack of a better thing. Waste Away is number 1. Yeah, I think I agree. Poxus, Waste Away, Fading Vigor, and then Prison of Grief. But yeah. Anyway, they're all really cool. And then we're going on to Legion of Blood. It's weird.
Okay.
Like, it's weird that we're starting with like what's probably the best, like clearly the best.
This is already what I was playing before the Battle
It
Tome.
is,
So
yep.
now I feel like it's like I kind of get that.
And
They
we
were
have
not bad before
proof.
the Battle Tome.
We have proof because you were playing them against Carson in your very first game, and that was a really great battle report actually. Although
Where I to slightly spoil the video because it's very old now, where I
no one's gonna
accidentally
watch
robbed
the second
Carson of
edition.
a,
Yeah,
I robbed Carson of a pivotal moment because we both forgot about Greasy Deluge.
Greasy Deluge, and then it's also the part where you insta-gibbed his Stonehorn.
Well, that's I mean, I guess that probably because that it wouldn't have happened because the extra damage would probably have killed Neparata before she got to attack.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yes. Oh, right. I was thinking. Never mind. Right.
So you know, baby steps.
Baby steps, but like it was such a fun moment, and you know.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
back to Legion of Blood are
So good.
right now the thing that needs the most FAQs and probably needs the most direct look at for nerfs right away.
Mm-hmm.
The old battle trait of expertise, each of your vampires used to either have to choose arcane expertise, which would give them a +2 to their first cast or unbind attempt in the turn, or maybe dispel, I don't rightly remember, or they could choose martial expertise and add +1 to their attacks with their weapons, has been replaced by this unparalleled expertise rule.
Mm-hmm.
So now they function like, to keep comparing it to Ogre Maw tribes, like being hungry or eating. They sort of, all of your vampires change states depending on whether they're within 3 inches of an enemy or not. So outside of 3 inches of an enemy, they just get a standing +1 to all casting, unbind, and dispel attempts.
Yep.
And up close within 3 inches of an enemy, they get +1 to all of their attack profiles, which is probably going to get FAQ'd to be only the vampire and not the zombie dragon they're riding on. But right now, it works on the zombie dragon.
Yep. Roman appears to be frozen, or he's performing a fantastic prank on us right now. Well, so while he's moving through space-time, that's interesting. What do you think? Do you think they're gonna nerf it, Carson?
I don't necessarily know if they will.
Right?
It seems pretty deliberate, based on the wording. So that's the difference is instead of it being the bearer's melee weapons, it's the unit that you're talking about. And that's pretty distinct wording. Like, it's not like a little slip-up that I think was accidental. So I don't know that it actually will get FAQ'd.
I'm actually inclined to agree. Roman says minor technical difficulties. Yeah, no worries. Take your time, Roman. Do what you need to do. We miss you. So I am actually inclined to agree with you. And like, it's not even. Oh, by the way, so Dan, thank you so much for donating once again. You are far too kind, sir. It's not necessary. We like to just have your company, but thank you very much for your generous donation once again. Is 33 Bolt Boys in a list too many? Alex says that's too few. So they're 120 points each. So that would be 11. So that would be 1,200, 1,320 points worth of Bolt Boys. I'm gonna actually fall down on the side of Alex here and say you could have more. You could have more. How about an even
Almost
dozen?
700 points more. Yeah.
Yeah, like just an even dozen.
And I'm back. Sorry about that.
Yo. Dan says, by the way, he's not playing his. He said earlier he's not playing his Gits because I think his back. I feel that, man. Like as a Skaven player and as a Soulblight player,
You gotta get some movement trays off Etsy.
yeah, movement trays and maybe a back brace or some kind of, like some kind of like.
Bring your child along to move your models for you.
yeah. If they're really small, you can get them on the table. Get some really accurate measurements going on. I was gonna say like some kind of tripod that you like put down on the table that kind of props you up as you're moving stuff around. I don't want to encourage people to buy more Bolt Boys, especially with the state of that Cruel Boys are in. But
well, you heard it here first. Just sit tight, wait for Dawnbringers to end in 6
man.
to 9 more months, and then snap up all those excess Dominion boxes that are still around if you really want to play Cruel Boys.
Oh man, I mean, there's already so many of them hanging around.
Can you imagine the discounts once 4th edition hits?
Oh shoot, yeah, that's gonna be crazy. I mean, oh man, I don't know if it could get any lower than 100. I saw them for $100 Canadian.
Yeah,
like, that's crazy. Anyway, so you're back now.
I'm back now. So I was saying about how much fun and parallel expertise is at the moment.
So Carson and I both don't think they're gonna change it. It feels like it's on purpose.
Okay.
I mean, so, I'm fine either way. The only thing is that I'll say though is that it's a little, maybe the one reason that I have that might not be purposeful is just because maybe they didn't consider the fact that like a lot of the time you're going to get plus to casting and plus to your attacks in the same turn. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because you start off not in combat, you get plus to cast, and then.
So I think early stats show that Legion of Blood needs not a big nerf, but a little downward bump. And this is a good place for that to start. Like it's a potential lever point. I don't know if it's the one they'll pick, but this feels unintentional to me based on how the old trait used to work. But it might be that this is just the way the writers intended the new trait to be that much more powerful.
That's fair. I mean, the old trait was done in a white dwarf, and those things are, silly bananas, just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall a lot of the time. Like 40k and AOS. So
the thing that's been a sticking point for me, and I don't know if anybody else playing Soulblight has had this forgetfulness too, is all across these sub-faction abilities playing the new books, remembering that these also now apply to the unique characters as well.
Yeah.
That they are anybody with those keywords. So Neferata just has +1 attack printed across all of her profiles, for instance.
Exactly. That's true. She just gets that. And
as long as you're not taking her outside of Legion of Blood, and now that a lot of their things are keyword locked, I don't know why you would.
And vice versa too. If you bring Vordry in, he doesn't get any extra attacks. It's just, what it says on the tin. Okay, and then now we've got the Coven of New Lamia. They have 2 heroic actions. They're both amazing. Like
one of them more than the other.
But like, man, like.
Yeah. So these feel cool, except you got to remember you still only get 1 heroic action a turn unless you're a GC going second.
Yeah.
So these do eat into your ability to produce extra command points, to heroically recover, you will never use heroic willpower in this army because everyone's a wizard. To finest hour, you have to make those choices. But so the 2 of them. Well, why don't we start with the less good one, the Immortal Majesty? So you pick a friendly Legion of Blood vampire until the end of the turn. Enemies nearby you have to spend 2 command points to all-out defense or inspiring presence.
Yeah, it's within 12 inches.
This doesn't feel great to me because most Legion of Blood lists that I've seen are running now 2 or 3 Vampire Lords on Zombie Dragons, and those already block Inspiring Presence automatically.
If they're in combat.
Right.
Yeah. But, so, what I was thinking, though, is you could also take your foot vampire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you do both of these things. You run them up the board first. They only got 1 CP. They can't redeploy. You know what I mean? Actually, no, you couldn't. I mean, you couldn't run them. I didn't mean to say that you could. Like, I meant you could move them up the board, charge in, and then they can't redeploy. They can't unleash hell, and they can't get wounds. You know, they can't get saves for their. They can't get ward saves as well, right? Or it's only attacks made by this hero. Oh, that does change my plan.
Are we talking about premeditated bloodshed now?
I was trying to get both of them to work at the same time.
Oh, well, you can't because they're heroic action. Oh, I see. If you went second and had a GC and you wanted to do both of them.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I think you're right. I think that's. I mean,
so the reason premeditated bloodshed is so bonkers.
Yeah.
I discovered this against Dale in a game recently. Is that it doesn't specify melee weapons.
That's true. Yep.
All of your Dragon's Breath shooting attacks and all of your spells are also ignoring any ward saves you chuck out.
Dang.
The Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon has the Soulblight Gravelords version of a Wargog Stare, where you just keep rolling a die, and each 3-up is another mortal wound, unless it's negated. But if you've done premeditated bloodshed, it can't be negated.
Right.
So you just keep going until you die or you fail to roll, until the enemy dies. You fail a 3-up.
Yeah.
Are you sure it applies to spells as well?
It says it doesn't say it. Maybe not.
Caused by attacks made by this.
Oh, it does say attacks.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's gone.
And he's gone. Yeah.
Just like that.
He was about to say you're right. So.
He couldn't.
Oh, you're back. Huzzah!
Hey.
Yay! He's back. You were about to say Carson's right.
I'm just gonna. I'm typing it in the chat. Because it does not. So also because it has that. Carson is correct. It happens often. The mustache makes it so.
Yeah.
If you and so because it includes that word attacks, it also won't apply to monstrous rampages, things like stomp that a vampire using this heroic action might throw out. Anything that isn't specifically an attack of some kind.
It was a cool thought, though.
Well, I mean, all I did was melt a Gabapalooza with it with the breath, so I don't think we played it wrong spells wise. I'm glad to have caught it before I tried to do that outside of a tournament.
The breath is a shooting attack, so.
Yeah, exactly. It is an attack, so it still works.
Nice. Yeah, they're both really good though.
They are both very good.
I feel like the premeditated bloodshed should almost be like a monstrous action or something like that. But I guess it's more thematic. It's more thematic.
There's also a little bit of play around it because you have to pick just one vampire each turn who can do it.
That's true. That's a good point. Command traits. Which ones do you like? Because we've got 5 factions to go through.
I think I'd lump these in just like the spells and say that Game Hunter is the one that I don't like. That I think Doomed Minions is the default pick because it's going to be the most generally useful. Yeah. But Taylor Downfall can be a very good pick as well.
Yep. I totally agree, and you picked Doom Minions to very good effect in our game as well.
Yep. If we want to move fast, then Artifacts of Power, take Cloak of Mist and Shadows, look nowhere else.
You know what? Those are all good, though. Like, I would try to get, like, at least one Warlord battalion in here.
If you wanted to take extra artifacts, I was looking at these recently to see what else I would take as an additional one, and they're not bad. The Orb of Enchantment has that horrible Cruel Boys once a game and a die roll thing.
I don't like that one as much, for sure. But
keeping the trend of the middle thing being bad in this book.
Yeah.
But the Amulet of Screams is pretty okay if you think you're going to be up against lots of wizards, but up against something like Fire Slayers, like if you roll into an army that has no wizards, it is a useless artifact that doesn't do anything.
That's true.
Whereas Cloak of Mist and Shadows is maybe the best thing they've printed since Basic Arcane Tome.
But but by the same token, if you have, for example, Amulet of Screams, and you think you're going to be going up against Croak in a tournament, which seems extremely likely at this point.
Yeah.
Just boom, it happens. You know what I mean?
So it happens within 18 inches on a 3-up, and it's D3 mortal wounds. So it might be you fly your vampire within 18 inches of Croak, roll a 3-up, get 1 wound, and then he murders you.
I mean, that's actually because they're using the Troglodon. It's pretty much all Starborn.
It's not a bad item. It's as a second choice goes, it's fine. But Cloak of Mist and Shadows is really where you want to be. It's the craziest thing in the book. in terms of artifacts, and I think
Yes,
it's another potential lever point for Legion of Blood. I would not be surprised to see this just straight up errated to be melee weapons only.
Ooh, interesting. Oh man, I I think it's fine. Like honestly, because it's not ignores negative modifiers. It's just it gives them an ethereal
Right,
save.
but you're putting it on a thing with
On a 3 up and lots of
3 up
wounds.
armor save,
Yeah.
16 wounds, and that
And a
heals
6 up.
minimum 6 wounds a turn, and has a 6 up ward.
Heals minimum 6. You mean because of the hunger?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it'll just not minimum 6. It will heal. I guess it will heal 6 plus Vile Transference, probably most turns.
Right. Right.
I think it is another potential lever point to give Legion of Blood that downward bump it needs.
Yeah, I could see that. You know, I don't know. I don't think I think the move is to actually just leave it as everything as is, and then just change Neferata because. But I guess we'll get to that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I don't think they'll change her. I think her points will go up.
That's what I mean. Just like bump her points to the point where anyway, and then it's like you take her if you really want to. Legion of Night, another really interesting.
Yeah. This is the Legion that I haven't played yet, but I'm most interested. This is the Legion with the most tricks to it.
No
and
kidding.
the thing that I think right now is being kind of suppressed because Legion of Blood is so clearly good that
It's
people
so
aren't
obviously
exploring
good.
this
Yeah.
as much.
It's true. Yeah, I think this is for the 40 chess galaxy brain type people are gonna. You know.
Yeah. I feel like this about the same way I feel about Castellai, but much more so here, that there's a build in there that hasn't been figured out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Legion of Night has all of the tools necessary to be a very tricky, very technical army.
That's interesting. So would you mind explaining the Ageless Cunning?
So this is so first off, Legion of Night from the last edition has lost its ability to deploy things into reserve. So it no longer, it just has to put things underground in the graves like everybody else. It can't just pop out from board edges anymore.
Right.
The new Ageless Cunning is one of your units per turn. After an enemy finishes a charge move within 12 inches, that it, as long as your unit is not already locked in combat, can attempt to charge in the enemy turn.
This is so cool. It's so cool.
So this is once a turn you pick one of your units to try this. Like a long bomb charge, you fail one, you don't get to do it again. You don't get to choose a second unit. But it is still, it's just like a level of counterplay that most people aren't used to seeing or thinking about. So it can really catch people off guard, and it makes people really worry potentially about, say, charging your screens.
Yep.
Because if something, to keep harping on a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon,
yeah,
or like Manfred, for instance, if they charge your wall of skeletons in the front, your Zombie Dragon could potentially fly charge over its own screen and into the unit that just hit the thing in front of it.
Exactly. It's got so much awesome counterplay and shenanigans, and you can set traps. You know, and they have something similar in OBR, one of the factions. And Matthias used it so well, and it just felt it like when someone. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's such a neat trick. I think eventually we're going to see a lot of this kinds of play as people sort of wrap their head around it a bit more. Because also Swift Form Heroic Action, which is the next thing down, is really cool as well. Like,
yeah,
you know, you don't need to worry about Tunnel Master. You're just like, I'm doing this.
This is the thing. This used to be on Manfred's War Scroll, sort of.
Kind of, yeah.
But now it is. It's a heroic action, so it happens in the hero phase before regular movement. And your dude, any vampire you like, which can include Manfred himself, gets picked up from the table and redeployed anywhere outside of 9. They're locked in place. They can't then move in the movement phase.
Yep.
But this can happen in the enemy hero phase because it's when you carry out your heroic action. So it can allow you to redeploy a vampire that's going to get charged. You can pick up extra objective control, hop something like to a place your opponent doesn't expect it. And although they can't move, they could attempt to charge afterwards. The only caveat now is that unlike Manfred's ult ability, this has to be used while you're outside of 3 of enemy units, so you can't use it to escape from combat.
Manfred's was definitely the ultimate one before. But...
yeah. That was, I said earlier at the beginning that there were 3 things I really wanted them to leave alone in this, to like see not change in this book. And Manfred's War Scroll was number 1. I wanted that to just remain untouched. And I did not get that thing.
I wouldn't have been surprised if they had left it as before. But the one thing I am shocked, like actually shocked that they didn't change, was Neferata's spell. I was like, there's no way that survives. You know? But
well,
here we are.
Yep. What a world we live in.
I know. Into the Jaws of Death is a unique monstrous rampage for Legion of Night. Pick one enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit that made a charge move in this phase and roll 2d6. Add 3 to the roll if the enemy unit is within half an inch of this unit. If the roll is greater than the unmodified charge roll for that charge move, this unit can attack with its Pestilent Breath or Death Shriek in this phase and must target that enemy unit. It's basically Unleash Hell.
Yeah, we talked about this. It's like an Unleash Hell that can't be quite as easily worked around.
Yeah.
But it's still, if you were a Soulblight player playing Legion of Night and you forgot that this existed, I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because it's like when you get charged, it's such a weird kind of corner case sort of thing. But it is a monstrous action too. It gets around the ability to, like you were saying or alluding to, that it can't be turned off because it's not a command ability. And on top of that, it could be just a regular Terrorgeist or something like that. It doesn't need to have anyone to command it to do anything.
Yep.
So there is some plus sides to it, but
stocks up on whatever that Stormcast Eternal subfaction is that can't be Monstrous Rampage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but what's kind of interesting though here too is, correct me if I'm wrong, but couldn't you do both?
I don't see why not.
Right? Because this is a monstrous rampage, not a it's not a command ability, so
yeah, and double tapping on the breath might not be too bad. It's a pretty decent weapon now.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have something nearby to command it, the Terrorgeist can be pretty terrifying to like low bravery stuff like Gits and whatnot. You could really fricassee some squiggles. But yeah, I don't know. That's there's not a lot of stop monstrous rampage tech out there. That's kind of what I was thinking, Willard.
Yeah, now that ever since the Galician Veterans GHB,
yeah, exactly.
No more. What were the Hunters of the Heartland?
Yeah, right. That's true. Leviticus was saying, I swore Neferata, I assume you mean his spell was going to be just ethereal, and here we are, everyone. Here we are.
Yep. We're living in that world.
We're living in this weird world. Not the worst timeline for sure, but it's interesting. Yeah. Command traits. What do you like? What do you not like?
It's hard for me to say. I haven't played Legion of Night yet. These are it is difficult for me to value these because these are like above suspicion and debate are things that Legion of Night used to just do for free.
Right.
So it feels weird for me to be stacking them on as a command trait.
It's like Castellai.
I think if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Unbending Will. Because I think Unbending Will gives you a lot of extra play with Swift Form and being able to summon units. Like you can, for instance, an objective that you don't control, it's sitting outside of your territory somewhere.
Yep.
You can Swift Form your vampire onto it in the hero phase. At the end of the movement phase, summon 10 skeletons onto it, and those 10 skeletons count as 20 skeletons because he's got Unbending Will.
That's true.
And that doesn't even have to be an unoccupied objective as long as there's a 3-inch bubble that you can deploy the skeletons onto or like a 3-inch place outside of 3 of whatever enemies are on it. You can put a lot of models onto an objective very suddenly, and all of that can happen in your opponent's turn.
I feel so. Actually, just to read it out, so people who are just listening at home, models. Unbending Will is models in friendly Legions of Night summonable units count as 2 models instead of 1 for the purposes of contesting objectives while they're wholly within 12 inches of this general. I did not read that well, but hopefully you guys all got the gist of it.
Summonables count as 2.
Summonables count as 2
on objectives
within 12 inches. I feel like this one lends itself to a foot hero.
Yeah.
And I don't really like taking foot heroes as my general because I really like access to the what's it called? This one's mine. And
Sure.
that might change in a future general's handbook, but it seems consistently out there.
Although when we get there, the vampires have a better version of that battle tactic. So
That's fair enough.
You can have both, but you could
There you
also
go.
just keep the one.
Have your cookie and have your cake and eat it too.
But I agree with you. I think this wants to be a little. This feels like a little support hero who's diving around the outside and just trying to keep an objective safe.
And you can
because your big things that want to go fight stuff are usually going to outpace your summonables.
It's true, and I don't want to talk too much about this current general's handbook because we're probably moving out of it fairly soon. But just to like what I'm thinking for this general's handbook right now, and the only reason I'm even bringing it up is because like future combinations like this may be possible, but like you could do something like because if you're going second, you best day ever, and you teleport them. You go over, you bring in 10 skellies, and then it just kind of makes them a little harder to kill, a little bit better at killing. You know what I mean? If you do try to make a charge in, like, you know what I mean? Like in the future, it'd just be it'd be good to keep things in mind for combos of the sort.
And it's worth noting that this doesn't say it adds 1 to the number of models that it counts as. It just counts as 2. Does it say it may? Models and friendly summonable units count as 2 models instead of 1. That's weird. Because, like, so for instance, my White King with 5 wounds is a summonable unit.
Yeah.
So what happens to him within a foot of this vampire? He doesn't count as 1, so it wouldn't be instead of. I guess he'd only count as 2 anyway, because he's only got 5 wounds. But you know what I'm driving at here.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, I guess there's nothing that's summonable that's would count as more than 2 anyway.
Other than the characters, yeah.
Well, even they'd count as 2 because there's nothing with enough wounds.
That's what I meant to say. Like, that's what I was trying to say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, never mind. I guess they solved it.
Yeah. No problem to begin with. But it's a good thing, it's good we looked into this, right?
Artifacts?
Sure, yeah. So you don't like any of the other... what about...
I mean, they're fine.
I kind of like the bait. Like, add 1 to save rolls.
Battle round, though.
Yeah, it's only the first battle round.
I keep forgetting that. Every time I look at that thing. Yeah.
And Legion of Night used to just do that army-wide.
Yep.
This is army-wide still, right?
But it
also adds 1 to the ward rolls.
That's why I like it so much. But then, first battle round...
Sure, if you wanted to take Nagash in a Legion of Night, you could have 4-up wards on everything the first battle round.
That'd be godlike. I mean, if you're worried about like croak bombs and different things like that, it's not that bad.
But like realistically, is it bad? No. Is it what you're ever going to spend your 1 command trait on? Probably not.
Probably not. Like honestly, I might take Master of Magic first. You can definitely get a command trait.
It would have to be really stupendous for me to take it over something that doesn't work for 4 battle rounds.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like,
Yeah, it feels very Cruel Boys. Once per battle on everything. Okay.
So we've got a comment here. I don't know how to say this.
Ludivicus is what I normally say. Correct me if
I'm wrong. Ludivicus, sorry if I'm getting that wrong. But he or she or they have pointed out that what happens to like a White King that takes Stubbornness Rhinox.
Whoa.
I'm pretty sure does the command trait override and then they count as 2, or do they still count as 10?
That's so funny.
So I guess they probably won't even bother FAQing that because it's not going to be around long enough to matter.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Someone's just doing it to make a point. And
just to be a jerk.
See, GW does this stuff all the time. It's like, cool, so you just sabotaged yourself?
To prove a point? Yeah. I mean, we are playing Age of Sigmar, so it seems less likely, but you never know.
Until the FAQ hits, your first mistake is not playing Legion of Blood.
That's true. Although, I don't know. I'm definitely I'm a Virkos guy, so
we'll get there.
I've got Virkos in my veins. Okay?
Yeah, I think Virkos is also very good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so artifacts. I almost skipped it.
Shard of Night, I'm pretty sure used to exist. It's you ignore negative modifiers for save rolls against attacks with missile weapons. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
If we do dive into a bit more of a shooting meta where KO and Slaanesh are everywhere, then you might look at this harder.
KO are everywhere. It feels like anyway.
But like you look at this and you're like, well, I could ignore negative modifiers against missile weapons, or I could just play Legion of Blood and have 2 Vampire Lords and Zombie Dragons that aren't being rendered by anything. So the Chiropteran Cloak is your standard, like bounce back, reflect some mortals onto people.
Is that your favorite?
And then Morbeg's, I think it's the winner. Because you can plant this on a little support hero. So in your hero phase, you can pick a hero who's got this more than 3 inches from all enemy units, and they lose the ability to move. But you add 2 to the casting rolls of all of your wizards wholly within a foot of that character.
It's so good. I think it used to be once per game or something. Like they keep making Morbeg's Claw. It's been around forever, and it's in every book, and it's never been like good enough that I've ever seen it before. But like,
so it is identical to its old version.
What? Are you sure? That's crazy.
But I mean, it wasn't like.
Are you sure it's identical?
I'm looking at it right now. In your hero phase, you can say that the bearer will carve sigils into the ground using Morbeg's Claw. If you do so, add 2 to the casting roll for friendly Legion of Night wizards. So it was. I think it actually got worse.
Oh no,
it's still wizards. Yep. Wholly within 1 foot of the bearer until your next hero phase. However, the bearer cannot make a normal move, a charge move, or a shoot or fight until your next hero phase.
Wow. Okay, so now it's just normal move, run, retreat.
Now it's just you can't move, so you can still fight if you get charged.
Right. And you can pile in.
I guess so.
Because it just says normal move.
But you used to be able to as well, unless not being elected for a fight stopped you from doing a pile in, which might be true.
Well, I mean, but you could pile in and fight.
Either way, yeah. I think that this is your take probably in Legion of Night, unless you've got a strong reason to take either of the other 2, or a generic thing like Manticore Venom isn't bad on a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon.
Yeah. But actually, that's a great point.
It's just the pluses to casting. This is an army that is big into spells. It wants to do a lot of casting, and so where it can find casting benefits, it wants to. Right. Like Legion of Night doesn't have unparalleled expertise that Legion of Blood does. It doesn't have Bella, who's a natural +1 caster in Virkos.
Right.
So this is your casting bonus in Legion of Night.
Isn't it your only casting bonus in the army, or am I thinking of?
I mean, you can always take Bella out of keyword.
That's true. Yeah. Yep, that's true. I forgot about her. Cool. Yeah, I think Morbeg's Claw is my pick too.
I think it got better by the subtraction of other things.
Yeah, basically. Addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
Cool. And now we're on to my personal... I don't know. I really like Castellai as well, but I only played Castellai the last...
New Castellai is super neat.
It is. It's cool, but anyway, we'll get to them in a minute. We're on Virkos right now.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no, not at all.
New Virkos is super neat. I meant to say Virkos. I think New Castellai is pretty poop.
Okay,
we'll
me too. Okay, I'm glad we are not going to be totally at loggerheads over that. I think the new Virkos is awesome. They've unlocked a new thing that's totally unique and it's awesome. So anyway, strength of the wolf is the pack in the combat phase. This is their like sub-allegiance ability. It's basically the old thing from the White Dwarf where if you fight with a hero, you can fight with a unit, and I don't think it has to be in that order either.
Yeah, deadly synchronization or whatever it was called.
Oh, it's the same. It's the same. So friendly Virkos hero is fought for the first time. You can pick another friendly unit that's within 3 inches of an enemy unit, wholly within 12 inches of the hero. They just get to fight one after the other.
It did get a little bit better. Just so slightly, because now it is any unit, and it specifies that if the second thing you pick is also a hero, you can't stack it along the chain.
Right.
But it used to be hero then summonable.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I just totally overlooked that. So it's even better now. You
could use this to chain fight heroes if you wanted to, or to chain fight things that aren't summonable. You could use this to do a like Chadakar into a unit of Blood Knights.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And the cool thing too is that I feel like Virkos is kind of not pressuring you, but incentivizing you to take lots of heroes in general.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, this is really dope. And then they've got a couple of they've got two amazing heroic actions. Is what I was trying to say. Um, One of them's once per game, and it's basically like as you've said in the past, it adds like an extra 130 points onto your army.
Like rule of thumb is Virkos plays with 2130 because you always get 10 extra wolves.
Yeah, exactly. And then so you're doing that every game. Like you're just doing that every game.
And this used to be on Radikar the Beast's War Scroll, and now any Virkos vampire can do it once per battle.
I was like, actually, it was on Shadowcard, and I keep forgetting that that's not his actual name. But ever since I saw that meme, that horrible but hilarious meme, I can't call him anything else. And then
Pack Alpha is you can. It's a heroic action again. Pick a friendly Deadwalkers unit within a foot of the hero, not wholly. Invisible to them, and you can add D3 models to that unit, and it allows friendly Virkos Deadwalkers to be taken above their maximum unit size. This thing is number 1 on the FAQ candidates for the book because right now it lets you add extra units to corpse carts, and I think you can add, even though he's unique, if you really want to be beardy, you can add multiple Gorslav the Gravekeepers to your army.
Yeah. So wait, how can you? Oh, it's because it's models, right? Yeah.
Because as long as he's got the Deadwalker, keyword, there's one of the characters. I might be wrong that it's Gorslav, but one of them has
I
a
think
Deadwalker.
You're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
One of them has a Deadwalker keyword, so I don't think unique applies outside of army building. So rules as written, if you want to be a complete jerk to your friends, you could try that, and then they won't play with you anymore.
That's true. I mean, it's just clearly
assume that this is going to have it's going to have summonable added to it in an FAQ, or it's going to explicitly work on. I mean, I don't think it'll add. I was going to say that it'll explicitly work on zombies, but I think the intention here is it's meant to work on direwolves.
It's meant to work. It's clearly because they're all about Deadwalkers in Virkos, so it makes total sense. But so you touched on two of the things. So if they add summonable, right, that will eliminate the problem of the hero. I don't really think there's an actual argument for summoning or adding extra named heroes. Like that's so crazy that there's no TO out there in the world that would rule on your side. The corpse card, it's like rules as written, so you can make the argument from that side of things. I think they might FAQ it even further than that though, and say 1 or 2 wounds, because there's one summonable Deadwalker unit, Roman, that I don't think that they intended for them to be able to add to the unit.
Is it Kosargi Night Guard?
Exactly. Like,
because there are only 2 models, and adding D3 to that seems pretty cool.
It is cool. It's extremely cool, and they would finally be like usable and actually pretty good in that particular case. I don't think it's as intended. I hope I'm wrong though. Like I actually hope they don't touch that.
Looking through the characters now, because Willard says Gorslav does not have the keyword, and I think I may just be mistaken. I think there may not be a hero you can do this to.
Okay, that's good. I mean, the corpse card is the thing that everyone's kind of raging and talking about right now, and the beardy people are going, but technically, and it's going, come on, guys, do you really think that was intended? Like D3.
It does also specify as a designer's note that the unit can't exceed its maximum
size.
No,
it can. Can. It says the opposite.
Oh, it does. Oh,
yeah.
My bad.
It explicitly says the other thing.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, otherwise it would be just taken care of. It'd be like.
So,
yeah.
Willard says it's a good thing nobody has more Night Guard, but I definitely am sitting. I am drooling, looking at some spare ogre gluttons, waiting for the FAQ to clear.
Yep. Yeah, you could just get out some. Maybe some like weird orc skulls from the skull box and just kind of.
I still have some from left over.
I've got a bunch if you need any. So like there'll be some fun conversions out there. I have 2 as well, but if it's intended, then like that would be so fun.
So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. I think this is prime candidate for FAQ, and I think we're gonna see it change somehow, no matter what. But if If it changes to summonable, I think that knocks the Night Guard off too, because I don't believe they are.
They, I think, are not. I think they're summonable. No?
I don't
Maybe
think
not. Maybe
so.
not. I haven't.
And
I haven't looked at it.
Pactious raises another good question, and this is
Okay.
one I've seen kicked around a lot that needs FAQing with the way that Endless Legions works.
Oh,
Is
wow.
if you add 3 dire wolves to a unit, they're 13 wolves now, and then they get killed, but you want to return them to the table with your allegiance ability. How many models do you get back?
But what does it say? Does it say starting amount?
I
You
don't
get
think
half
so.
Starting?
I think
No?
I think it falls right within that gray area where you could
Oh,
rule it either way.
jeez. Okay. Well, Poxus is bringing up some great questions. You guys are all really helpful. Appreciate the comments in the chat. It's really great to see multiple perspectives and stuff. I love Virkos, and so what makes them, like, the thing that I didn't immediately notice is what we're going to talk about next. So command traits and artifacts of power. The named characters can get both artifacts of power and command traits. This is my favorite new thing that they've
that little thing in brackets. Virkos General only including unique Virkos units.
Oh man, this is amazing.
I don't know that there's any broken combos in there, but it sure is neat.
Nothing broken, but like some really fun, cool things. Like I really like to have strong generals. Mm-hmm. So for this one's mine, because we always seem to see a battle tactic around that sort of thing. So I really want to take Chattakar with Driven by Death Stench, just to make sure things get in, and then you can wombo combo things in. They're fighting one after each other. They're getting extra attacks, and they're making their charges a lot more safely.
Put a little mental bookmark on Driven by Death Stench. We'll talk about it again when we hit Castellai.
Okay. When we hit Castellai?
We sure will.
Okay, interesting. So then there's also Hunter's Snare for the purpose of contesting objectives. That counts as their wound characteristic. So you could do that for Chattakar as well, putting him up to 12.
This is cool.
The zombie dragon. Yeah. So this used to be called Alpha something, I think. They've always had this, but it was called something else before. I think it was called Alpha Predator or something like that. It was the same thing as before, only now your zombie dragon counts as more because it has 2 more wounds on it. So it's counting as 16 instead of 14.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the highest wound thing in the book, besides Nagash, who can't take this.
Right.
So I think 16 is the most you could get out of it.
Totally. I could totally see. It depends on my build. I'm almost always taking a zombie dragon or a vampire lord on zombie dragon because I love the model so much, and I have 2 of them painted. But I could see that.
Oh yeah. Yep. Hunter's Snare is exactly a copy paste from the old Virkos.
Was it called Hunter's Snare? I think it was called.
It was even called Hunter's Snare. It's just when
really?
you were taking Virkos before, you were always taking Pack Alpha for the free command point, so you never looked at the other ones.
Alpha. That's what I was thinking of. I just got the names mixed up.
Yep.
At the start, and then there's Spore Tracker. At the start of your hero phase, friendly Deadwalker units wholly within 9 can move 3 inches. This is actually dope. Like,
this is also very cool.
Yeah, they're all good. Like,
yep.
It just depends on your build, I think. Like, if you've got a lot of zombies, I actually think this is a really good one, and it also like it could allow you to retreat and charge.
No, because it's a normal move, right?
Normal move.
A retreat is not a normal move, isn't it?
It is. But it just says
Carson's shaking his head.
I don't think so.
It's not a normal move. A retreat is not a normal move. But
well, then the command trait here specifically says within 9 inches the general can make a normal move of up to 3 inches.
Yes.
So if a retreat is not a normal move, then you cannot use this to retreat.
No, you can't use this to retreat, but effectively retreat and charge because you're making a normal move, which is not a retreat, and then you get to charge. Like it's
I understand.
It's the same thing as what the Blood Knights were doing in the second edition book.
I don't know if that's the way that works. I don't know if units are forbidden from making a normal move if they're within 3 inches of an enemy.
But like isn't that what the Blood Knights said on their old war scroll?
Let's read Riders of Ruin.
Like I think it's specifically called out, even though they're in combat.
Riders of Ruin, in your movement phase, if this unit is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, it can make a normal move.
Oh, that's true. But
I think I'm not sure. I actually don't know. I'd want to look that one up to
Look
be
at the
certain.
core rules if you guys want to continue. Just looking at
Alex says a normal move can't be done within 3.
but that's true in the movement phase.
I think it's because it's a normal move. I think if this said it was a move, just a move in the hero phase, I think that'd be allowable. But I think because this specifically says normal move, it's not going to work that way.
I think that's how it's going to be FAQ'd, but I don't think it's necessarily. Blood Knights used to say even if they're within 3 inches, and I think Carson actually hit the nail on the head.
They couldn't make that move unless they were within 3.
Exactly. I think Carson hit the nail on the head there.
But this is still a very cool control piece.
Yeah.
The bubble is very small. A wholly within 9 makes it hard to use with big blobs.
That's true.
But still, it lets you get your zombies, your night guards, your direwolves, your corpse carts to places where you need them.
Well, and like, and your zombies have such poopy movement that it's just like to add 3 inches and make them like go from poopy to good. Like it almost doubles their movement. Like that's crazy.
In the core rules, section 8.1 under normal move, it says, when you pick a unit to make a normal move, you can move each model in that unit to the distance equal to or less than the move characteristic, blah, 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 blah. Units cannot make a normal move if they're within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Yeah. So that's outside of the context of if it's the movement phase or not.
That's
just
true.
The fact that it's classified as a normal move.
That's true,
exactly.
But books overrule core rules, though, right?
But this is just granting the ability.
This is just granting it.
Yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, like, no need to go too far into it. But like the Blood Knight thing, like you said, it said even if they're within 3 inches or whatever, however they put that.
Yeah, they had to be within 3 to trigger it.
Exactly. So that's interesting. Anyway,
so the next. The artifacts here break the mold of our previous bloodlines because all 3 of these are good.
They're so good. I want all 3 of them.
The Ulfenkarni Phylactery, I see a lot of people trying to stack with Nagash or Torgilius, and it doesn't work.
No.
It specifically stacks on Deathless Minions, so it makes your Deathless Minions allegiance ability from a 6+ to a 5+. Nothing else stacks. It's not doing anything for anyone else.
No.
But it does expand, like if you've brought Torgilius or you've brought Nagash, it does expand those bubbles. It gives you more survivability all the way around, and a bunch of direwolves on a 5+5+ sounds pretty good to me.
Yep. I mean, honestly, anything in this army that's meant to be on a 6-up ward that goes to a 5-up ward, you're getting so much value from it. That like I think I take Torgilius every time, and then I take another hero, probably Kritza, with this artifact, and then Bob's your uncle, man. Like,
hey Carson. Nice.
What's going on? What do you?
The Terminus Clock is the next one, and this one is got quietly like a huge upgrade over the last book.
Which one? Sorry.
The Terminus Clock.
Oh, right on.
Because this is in the enemy hero phase. Start of the enemy hero phase, you can stop the clock. If you do, roll a die on a 3-up until the end of the phase. Subtract 1 from the casting of enemy wizards, table wide.
This used to be once per game.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it works every turn.
Every turn,
so
you just
this is great. This thing is fantastic. You just like Spirit Gale, or even as well as Spirit Gale, put this on your little character that you want to keep like hidden at the back, who's holding down a home objective, or like doing some support work, staying kind of largely out of the way, and just like deal out some chip mortal wounds and maybe subtract 1 from all enemy casting table wide. Against an enemy army with no wizards, this doesn't do anything, obviously.
That's true.
This has the benefit of hurting armies that want to rely on casting quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, it's common and popular enough now that I think it is it's probably my 3rd choice. Like, but it's so good.
Of these?
I think so. Like,
yeah, I'm between it and Standard of the Ulfen Watch, just because I have after playing in a Feast of Chaos, I've developed a severe allergy to 4-ups. So I think I'll take the Terminus Clock a lot of the time.
That's fair. I mean, but like that's always going to apply though.
Yep.
It's not. And by the way, it's not. You don't roll 1 dice every time. It's every time they go to do something. You know what I mean? So like, man, like
Yeah, every time they would spend a command point. So you can
Yeah.
see, like, the third artifact is the Standard of the Oathland Watch. If the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a die each time your opponent spends a command point. On a 4-up, you receive a command point. So this is, you can basically just look at your opponent's stack of command points every turn and just sort of soft assume that 50% of that is yours, as long as they choose to spend it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now you actually enjoy playing against OBR?
I mean, if you knew you were going into OBR, this is a very good pick.
It's so true.
Same thing into Slaanesh, right? There's at least one of the sub-factions gets like I guess you're not spending multiple command points into Slaanesh. You're just getting... Are you? I don't actually know how that sub-faction works yet.
I don't remember, even though we just did it last week.
We should know, but we don't. Yeah.
Well, all right. So that's Virkos. They look great. Actually, before we move on from Virkos, I will share the only I'll not go into the full detail, but the only 5.0 list I've seen in the new book for Soulblight that isn't Legion of Blood, which was a Virkos list. Emma Mangles, the really good GT. I think I'm getting their name right. I might not be. But it's a few Vampire Lords on foot, Bella, Necromancer, Torgilius, 140 zombies, some dire wolves, 2 corpse carts, and a 20 of Graveguard.
It's cool.
And it is just so big.
Yeah.
They've got the phylactery and the standard, so they did not go for the terminus clock. But it makes sense to me because because you've got 140 zombies hiding under a 4-up ward save that are bringing back 3 models a turn automatically. And
wait, why are they on a 4-up ward?
Or sorry, a 5-up ward.
Okay.
There's two bubbles of 5-up ward.
Got
one
it.
under Bella and one under Torgilius.
She put the
artifact onto Bella because because she's Virkos.
That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, that's a cool list.
It looks great. I'm glad to see something besides Legion of Blood winning. Like, it shows that the book has some good depth and stuff to explore.
Totally.
But that looks so scary to play against.
It does.
Because they can also add units back to the Deadwalker unit with the Virkos command ability, or the heroic action, I mean.
Right.
On top of Deathly Invocation. So those units are bringing back tons of models each turn.
Carson does his Skyrim impression once again.
So I wanted to share that before we moved on from Virkos.
I love it. Very cool. Okay. Castellai.
All right. So now we're out of the
good stuff.
The strong bloodlines.
Yeah. Oh man, what did they do to my precious Castellai? Let's find out. Although the Might of the Crimson Keep is a little bit better, I think, than it was before, just because. I don't like anyway. Well, so at the end of the combat phase, if any enemy models, so it used to be units, now it's models.
That is better.
Yeah, if we're slain by friendly Castellai vampire unit, you can pick one relevant ability on the opposite table. Blah blah blah. So if the slain model was a hero or monster, add 1 to the damage characteristic of the unit's melee weapons, excluding the mounts. That's the same. Nothing's changed there. If the slain model has a wound characteristic of 3 or more and was not a hero or monster, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons. That's where it's different.
Yeah, because it used to add a wound. Which is what I think makes this worse.
Interesting. I kind of liked it on Blood Knights though, because it just made them even killier. Like, if you could give them +1 damage, +1 attack, then it's just like,
but having the deeper wound pool makes the hunger more effective, and because they can heal more wounds off the unit before losing a model.
That's
true. I think the loss of the tankiness really can't be understated.
That's a good point. That's true. And without their movement stuff, it makes them more difficult to... Yeah, I can see what you're saying. And then it's slain model is a wound characteristic of 2 or less. Add 1 to the unit's move characteristic. So that's always been the poopy one, but...
This is all kind of fine. Like,
right.
I think with the addition of True Blades and the expansion of all of this stuff working not specifically on Blood Knights, but on vampires now...
Yes. It's always been vampires because it worked on the Blood Knights, but now we have a new unit. Right?
Oh, I guess that's true. It was Blood Knights were only working in with the reserve, which is gone now unless you take a command trait. But there's maybe a sneaky build in here that uses some stuff with vampire keywords that isn't Blood Knights.
Oh, right. Um, sorry, my wife was messaging me. So then, but you know what's funny about, speaking of the Askurgan Trueblades, they're actually probably better in Legion of Night because you can set traps where they countercharge and then they give the fight last ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cute.
But like, I don't, I've got them. They're sitting right next to me. In fact, they're not primed, and I don't know when I'm going to paint them just because.
I think that it's worth taking up, since this is a new book, it's got all new stuff in it.
Yep.
Points have changed, keywords have changed, rules have changed. It's worth taking a look at what the keywords actually do. So like, it is worth examining Castelli and not just immediately locking yourself into the mindset of this has to be Blood Knights. I think there's something. Even if it doesn't end up being good, it's worth thinking about that and exploring as a list building possibility.
Absolutely, and there is a lot of tech here with the command traits with Vordry to give out multiple buffs. So you could have one unit kill something, and then like two other units get the same buff. So there is tech to be explored. I still like them, but I don't think that they are anywhere near the strongest. I'll just say that. So then we've got the heroic action. This is the worst heroic action in the book.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Your unit has to take damage, which isn't ideal, but it'll probably heal it up. And then it's some little spammy mortal wounds out to everything near it, but it's not a lot. It's sort of neat, but as heroic actions go, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's damage on a heroic action, which is neat.
It's true.
And that's different.
And it's every enemy. Actually, I guess we keep forgetting to say this. So pick one enemy, Castelli Vampire Hero until the end of that turn. At the end of each phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to that hero in that phase, or that hero was not slain, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches on a 2-up. They suffer D3 mortal wounds. So this would work even in the charge phase against Ogre, multi-charging. You could hit out a couple of wounds. Same thing in the hero phase. It really works a lot better on something with a decent wound pool. But... Yeah.
And like you say, it works because it triggers each phase. Yep. Like after you've done the heroic action.
Yep. That's true.
Until the end of that turn. So it works if you get charged and take impact hits, and then you take a monstrous rampage, or you get shot at, and then you also, maybe you take damage from a spell at close range, and you get fought at in melee, and you somehow take damage from all of that. You could spam out a lot of mortal wounds with this. But that's like an ideal case, and most of the time this is probably just going to be a little bit of chip damage.
Indeed.
And you're doing
for it to strike at the opening as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're expecting it to happen, you could be like, do it, like try, basically, right?
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't love this, but I don't hate it. It's fine. It's a cool tool to have in the box.
I like it. Then we've got Battle Crazed, Monstrous Rampage for Castelli monsters. Add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by this unit in the following combat phase. This, of course, as always, for every other monstrous action and ability in general, applies to the mount as well.
Yeah, so this is really good.
It is
specifically
good
for that Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon who is currently winning the whole book.
Yes, I like it. Especially if you have more than one, because then you can roar and do this on whatever unit is punchier. I did this against Matthias, but then it ended up backfiring because he used his Mortrek Guard to do the command ability where they are ignoring Rend. So I should have just roared them, because then they would have been ignoring Rend and they couldn't have...
Alas.
Yeah. But,
Shield Wall.
Yeah, Shield Wall. The new Shield Wall. Much better. It is really good, though. It's fantastic. Yeah.
It's +1 wound bonuses are hard to go wrong with, and this one's a monstrous rampage, so you can do it as well as all out attacking. So just very good.
And you can you can wombo combo this if you've got more than one monster as well, which I like.
Getting into Legion of Blood, or Castelli, not Legion of Blood, Castelli command traits next.
Yep.
If you remember where I told you to put a little mental marker up next to the Virkos command trait,
I do remember.
If you look at Swift and Deadly,
Yeah.
You may notice that this is that, but better.
You can reroll chart. It's 12 inches instead of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. But, man.
I think the logic here is that a lot of Castellite things are going to have bigger bases.
Yeah, they 100% are, yeah. A lot more monsters, Blood Knights, that kind of thing.
It was funny to read through the book and just, like, they are the same, but, you know.
But being that Castellite is kind of worse overall, I feel like this is fine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just thought it was neat to point out.
It's kind of a funny little thing, though, for sure. Is that the one you're taking? I'm not taking Shifting Keep. Like, maybe it's my bitterness of just, I didn't used to have to pay for this, and now I got to, so I'm just like, no. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know about Shifting Keep, because I think that's, you've got enough play in terms of table position with popping summonables out of grave sites that you don't need to having your Blood Knights. Although Blood Knights, between the loss of this ability naturally and the loss of Riders of Ruin being able to leave combat, Blood Knights have gotten way, way less maneuverable than they used to be. Undead Blade Lord doesn't look bad, because he can just gain a benefit.
That's what I took. So Undead Blade Lord is once per turn if this general per turn. So is on the battlefield when a Castellite vampire unit gains an ability from the Might of the Crimson Keep battle trait that this general has not already gained. This general gains the same ability. So what I was talking about earlier, this is part of that wombo combo where you could charge something in with Prince Vordry rather. Mm-hmm. And you kill like a hero. He'll still kill a lot of things, like most things that he gets into combat with. He's still a really fighty guy. And then, for example, so when you do that, then this general gets the same ability, right? As long as he doesn't have it already, right? And then Vordry has an ability where he can just hand out the same thing to another unit. Mm-hmm. So he could hand it out to a set of Blood Knights, and your general gets this ability too, and then now everyone's getting every ability.
You can get to +1 attack, +1 damage a turn faster.
Really fast, yeah. So it does require more calculated play, and it does require you to have actually. And Vordry's ability is a bubble. I think it's like 12 inches or something like that, but it's not that hard to get to. But having said that, it's anyway, it's something really cool, and it makes me still want to play them.
It's a neat thing, and it's what I think I would look at either Swift and Deadly, or Undead Blade Lord between the two. But I'm not likely to play Castellite anytime soon unless something really bad happens to Legion of Blood and Virkos.
and maybe Legion of Night too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always taking Undead Blade Lord because it's so cool. Like I really do like the lore behind Castellite as well. So I'm taking Undead Blade Lord for the foreseeable future. But we do have some. So Fragment of the Keep is the same but worse. It's instead of being 6 inches now, it's 3 inches, but it's still good. Like it's still like a really strong way of keeping things alive. It's still my pick though, I think, because.
I think it depends on your army construction, because I look at the red casket and I think that's my pick.
Just +3 to charge is always going to be good. You're more reliable. I mean, if you combine that with the rerolls, then.
And it's kind of what Castellite wants to do. Like, I imagine this on a strong tank unit like a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon or Well, I guess Vordry can't have this, but just something to throw something big and chonky into your enemy's lines right away to give the rest of your army a chance to catch up behind you. And if you're using Vordry and you're using maybe Undead Blade Lord as well, you're already stacking buffs while the rest of your army is catching up.
Yep. I could see that. The only problem is that, so Undead Blade Lord, you don't need to have the other unit up with you, but for Vordry's, I think it is there's a limit on the distance. So, but yeah, I get it. The subtract one from wound rolls is such a rare ability, and I've been using that this whole time. Like in every game I've ever had with Castellite, I've taken subtract 1 from wound rolls, and it saved my bacon so many times.
I think they're both good. I think they've got. It just depends how you want to play your army.
Totally, yeah. Slower burn, maybe fragment.
The only one I don't take here is Gravesand Shard because I don't understand what this is for.
Yeah.
Returning one model. I guess it is a whole model to a summonable unit. It's not wound locked, but
like, what is that?
Let's see this.
Dire
Once
Wolves?
per battle round, at the end of the battle shock phase, you can return one slain model, each friendly summonable wholly within 18 inches of the bearer. So this can't be used to bring summonable heroes back to life. If you don't have a multiple model unit, you can't do anything with this. So I don't know why you ever take this.
Yeah. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think so.
I don't think there's a use for it.
Avangori.
Well, but Alex, they can't have multiple corpse cards unless you're Virkos.
That's true.
So Avangori.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alex in the chat says to use this to return your corpse cards, but they're first off not summonable, and secondly, you can't have multiples of them because you're not in Virkos returning D3 to the unit.
I like where the spirit is at, Alex. So Avangori, I don't know anything about them. Teach me.
Big monsters. Their secret is they're always angry.
Okay.
This is where your unmounted Terrorgeists and zombie dragons live if you ever wanted to use them, and where a lot of your Vangorian Lord abilities are unfortunately locked now by keywords.
Okay. So, Cursed Abominations, once per turn at the start of your combat phase, you can pick one Avangori monster within 3 inches of enemy units. Until the end of that phase, use the top row. Okay.
Yep, just allows you a monster to fight unbracketed, which is cool, but now that your brackets have gotten a lot better in a third ed book, it's a lot less impactful than it would have been in the last book.
Yeah, and like, the only really... Anyway, yeah. It's okay, and it's only one per turn, but hey, like, what are the odds that you've got that many injured monsters, I guess? I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you're in Avangori and your monsters are battle line, that's what you've got in your army.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Titans.
You've got two extra monstrous rampages in this subfaction.
That's fun.
Maddening Hunger is the if you know Beasts of Chaos, it's the pick up and eat from the Gorgon.
Okay.
You can pick D3 enemy models within an inch and roll a die. If you roll over their wounds characteristic, you just pick them up off the table and eat them. Fantastic for spiking high on Annihilators or Ogre Iron Guts or something. And Unstoppable Nightmare until the end of the following combat phase. The first time an Avangori unit within 6 inches of this unit is destroyed, this unit can fight immediately after the last slain model is destroyed. This is terrible, and I don't know why. So you have to declare this as your monster's rampage, and then also lose a unit in an army where you're probably only fielding 7 or 8 models. Unless you've got some summonables in here to hold objectives or something, you're not going pure Avangori monsters. But this feels like a I ran out of monstrous rampages take.
Yeah, I mean, I could see doing it on my Terrorgeist because their attacks profile on their jaws is never different. So even if you're not at your top profile, and the Terrorgeist is just like it's a likely thing to die on the 4 save.
It's triggered when another Avangori unit is destroyed within 6 inches.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not even a fight on death. You can't do it with yourself.
Yeah, that's dumb.
So you have to lose another nearby model. So I mean, if your opponent is worried about this, I guess it could cause some confusing targeting priority things if they start attacking you force them to attack the thing that is not that is not their priority target, because if they keep pounding on the wounded monster, then your other monster maybe gets to fight a couple of times, but it still seems like not great. It's a niche pick at best.
Agreed. And I do think Maddening Hunger is most of the time what you're gonna do. So because I mean, you could actually just gobble a troll.
I'm assuming that you're going to be doing both, because this is in Avangori. You probably have 5-6 monsters on the table.
Sure.
So you're going to be roaring, stomping, doing both of these.
That's true. Titanic
dueling if you can.
I mean, if you're going to send 2 monsters into another monster, then you're going to just pick Unstoppable Nightmare, because why not?
Yeah. Right? Leviticus also points out, just like the Gorgon, that you can, because it allows you to remove specific models, you can use it to eat command groups out of enemy units. Yeah, you could stop the Mortar Guard from even being able to. Eat the unit champion, and they can't do orders anymore. Exactly. Very cool. Okay. And then we've got
Command traits. Do you have any picks here that you like?
I think it's Monstrous Might, which I was poo-pooing in Castelli, but
yeah, fair.
but
But
here
this
it's
is
not a
12
bad
inches,
choice.
though.
Yeah, but it is holy, and you're talking about monsters on big bases.
But still, that's way
Mhm.
better than 3 inches. You could just set up a bubble and Bob's your
Yeah,
uncle.
Torment-driven throws isn't bad. Like a 5+ isn't something to bank on, but it also works on every unit that is within 3 inches of them. And if they take that one mortal wound on a 5-up, then Strike Last applies.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know that I'm taking this if it's my own. Like if I'm having to pick one because it's my only command trait, I don't know that I'm taking this. I think I'm probably just taking Monstrous Might.
Absolutely.
And
I
then
like
Unhinged
Monster Might.
Rampager is you can reroll charges, which is cool, but only for the general. And at the end of the shooting phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds were dealt to the general in that shooting phase, and they're more than 9 inches from an enemy, they can move d6 inches, which is just stupid and dumb.
Yep.
So if you take any damage in the shooting phase, you can move maybe 1 inch. Great. I'm glad you spent your command trait on that.
Yeah. That's a flavor text one.
The artifacts of power here are real bad, and we could probably just skip all 3.
Sure, I'm fine with that.
They again have gone to the Cruel Boy school of once a battle and requiring a die roll. At least most of they're all once a battle. Breath of the Void Maw I think is the only one that may require a die roll, but these are like Gorbar's Collar is once a battle. You can have the strike first effect.
Yeah.
Which I guess cool. You maybe charged anyway. Like these are really lackluster.
Bad. Yeah. These are KB level. You know what? The only reason I actually care about this, because I do not care about Avangori. I have no interest in the entire faction whatsoever, other than they get to run. They get to do the Gristlegore thing where they've got a bunch of monsters as battle line. The reason that I don't like this is because it's like, wait, I thought you learned your lesson from Cruel Boys. Yeah. Like, that was the first AOS 3 battle tome with Stormcast Eternals, and we've got it again? Like, I feel like, stick their nose in it kind of thing, right?
And the other two artifacts, real quick. One is once a battle at the start of the combat phase, pick an enemy unit, and on a 2-up, they take that many mortal wounds.
Cool.
So once a battle, you could do 2 to 6 mortal wounds. And the last one is once a battle, you get an Ogre Impact Charge.
Cool. Once per battle is depressing. Every time I see it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Moving right on. Yeah. So
Grand
Strats. Yeah. What do we like?
Empire of Corpses.
When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you replaced 3 or more friendly summonable units. Yeah, that one's I guess it depends on your build.
It does depend on your construction. If you're running Castelli, maybe you don't take Empire of Corpses, or if you're taking big blobs of summonables that you're not planning on having wiped away, this can be hard to score. But in terms of you don't have to build your list particularly hard to make this very easy to do, and it's really, really hard for your opponent to interact with, because the counterplay is not to kill your units.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like you could just not kill my units. That's fine too. Yeah.
So it's it can be tricky if you've got a low number of summonable units in your army, but I think this is the clear winner of the book in terms of ease of scoring.
Right. I think so too. I haven't kept too much of an eye on it. The other ones are Lust for Domination. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control more grave sites. That's like the rich get richer.
That's the old one that they had out of the White Dwarf update from the previous tome, and it's not bad.
That's fair. I mean, to control a gravesite, is it within 3 inches or is it within?
It's just controlling an objective, I believe. Yeah, it says so in the grand strategy. So it's within 6.
Okay, within 6. That's interesting.
But because you control them the same way as you control an objective, you can leave them behind on terrain. So you can your opponent. It's priority is to your opponent to have to go and recapture them from you.
That's actually not that bad, because you're going to be more cognizant of your grand strategy than your opponent is, most likely.
I think I'll just caveat here to say that of these 4, the Dance Macabre is the only one that I haven't seen in a 5.0 list since the book came out.
Fair. Wow. Huh. I Oh, nice. Welcome, Keith. Glad to have you. Whenever you can get here, don't worry about it. The VOD will be there for you later. It's been a really fun episode. Lots of great comments and great guest. Rowan's been killing it. Crimson Larder, we haven't said so far. When the battle ends, you complete grand strategy if there are no heroes from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. Yeah.
Now, I saw a Legion of Blood list with this that did quite well, but this is a bold choice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What if you're going into the OBR guy who's like rocking a 2-up invulnerable
20 wounds,
save?
Yeah.
And
Catacross, the Living Ironclad.
yeah, he's got a 5-up ward, sometimes a 4-up ward.
I'd be scared taking this just rolling up into like Boulderhead.
Yeah. Even exactly. Absolutely.
Like this would make me question my choice.
You'll be fine. You got the Dagger of Jet.
Yeah, the dud pick here is the Dance Macabre, which is just take what's theirs but worse. Because it's take what's theirs, but you can only score it with summonable units instead of anybody.
It's so dumb. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Yep, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say the Empire of Corpses is an odd one too, actually. Like, I know it's probably the most viable, but it almost seems like a win less grand strategy versus win more for a bunch of books. Because if you truly like murder your opponent, then it's like, well, I can't score my grand strategy. I guess this kind of sucks. So if you're like truly getting to top tables and you're doing extremely well, then you're being
so
punished.
That's why this is what I like. It's a grand strategy that's fairly easy to score. You can play into it. There is a little bit of counterplay. I think it's maybe a little bit on the unfair side. Like, it's a little bit too good, I think. But this is not on the scale of like Fire Slayers summoning an invocation or Tzeentch just holding on to fate dice that are just automatically free.
Yeah, that you can't
interact
with.
But it's definitely more towards that end than it is towards like truly difficult to score grand strategies.
That's
true.
I think
that it's kind of like when you're building a Soulblight Gravelords army out of this book, I think you always look at Empire of Corpses first and ask if it's something your army list can do, and you only choose something else if the answer is no.
And if you have like a couple of units of Fellbats into your army, like you're using them to capture objectives, and then it's like, and they're so easy to kill where it's just like you can just not kill them.
Yeah, even skeletons in 10s, they are more resilient now, but like they're just 10 wounds on a 5-up, 6-up. Like they will go away to anything committed that hits them, and then you bring them back and score your grand strategy.
Yep, absolutely. I like it. Like it a lot.
This also works on those cheeky summonable heroes if you have any too.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's fun. Cool. Battle tactics.
Callous Overlords is from the White Dwarf update. You pick a summonable unit more than 3 inches from all enemy units. You complete the tactic if that unit is destroyed this turn. So if you fling your garbage summonables into a meat grinder to die, you can score points off it, which is super thematic.
Another good reason to use Fellbats, because like 9 wounds on a 6-up, like.
I failed this against Dale.
What did you throw it into?
I threw 10 skeletons into 10 squig hoppers, and the squig hoppers did not do the thing.
What? That's crazy.
1 skeleton lived.
That's crazy. Wow. Wait, it's destroyed this turn, so you could lose it in Battle Shock, right? Like you could get it from Battle Shock?
Yeah, but I didn't.
Oh, fair enough.
Maybe it was a resummon 5, and that's why I was able to do it and still pass the battle shock. I'd have to talk to Dale about it. But either way, I did fail this battle tactic.
That's funny.
Cursed Unlife is you complete this if any wounds allocated to your general or any 2 other friendly vampires are healed using the hunger. This is a gimme. If you've got any big monster vampire in your list, you're just going to score this at some point in the game.
If it's your general, you just need your general to heal. Yeah. So.
Yep, you just choose, if they've taken any wounds, you just choose this on the turn they're going to fight back.
It's very easy to accomplish, for sure.
Grasping Dead is new. Pick 1 friendly summonable unit within 3 inches of an enemy unit. You complete this battle tactic if they're still within 3 inches of the enemy unit at the end of the turn. So great for picking if you've got big blobs of zombies or direwolves, something that's just like a big sack of wounds.
Right.
That's not going to wipe out what they're fighting, but also isn't going to die from it.
Right. Yeah. Good call. Choices Vintage.
This is your take what's or this one's mine but better.
Right.
Because you still pick an enemy hero, but this
Doesn't
works
have to
if
be
they are slain by any wounds caused by any attacks by any vampire instead of just your
good.
general.
Yeah.
So this can be breath weapons from your zombie dragon. It can be melee weapons off of any of your dudes. So it's if you're worried about not having enough battle tactics and you don't have a great fighty general, this is still a good pick if you've got something else that's a vampire that can do some damage.
Yeah, it just has to be a friendly vampire hero. So just regular zombie dragon guy, vampire lord and zombie dragon, or I mean, heck, it would work for any of the Mortarks.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I remember choosing this against your Ideneth when I had a zombie dragon and a foot vampire against in combat with something I wanted to murder, just because I wanted the extra insurance of the slightly more attacks over this one's mine.
Yes, absolutely. I like it for the variety. And this one's mine might not be here. I feel like we've seen some iteration of it every time, but like it might not be here in the future. And this is a great one to have access to. And it's even better, I would think.
Expand the Grave Empires is a little bit difficult, but not impossible. You control this tactic if you control 2 or more objectives, or you complete this tactic if you control 2 or more objectives wholly outside your territory, and each of those is contested by a friendly summonable or vampire unit.
Yeah, right.
So this is This is table state dependent, but it works very well on. It works very well if you've got something like Legion of Night that's hopping around the table with Swift form, or if your grave sites are set up to spit out summonables onto far objectives that are unguarded or not guarded enough. This is just something to keep in mind as you play the table.
Totally. Keith made a really good point.
I just saw that.
Welcome, Robin, by the way. It's good to have you. No, I enjoyed your stream of Crazy Innuendo last week. It was perfect for Slanesh. And good luck washing your dogs. I have a very large dog that it's my turn to wash, and I'm not looking forward to it. And then Keith says, remember, ward rolls are not must for Callous Overlord.
Yep. Very That's a good important, point. And it's not something I thought of at the time.
Oh no, yeah. I had that recently in my Skaven game against you, Roman, when you were playing Beasts of Chaos, and it was like I had to roll my stupid bodyguard save for my.
There was a very funny interaction where Grey Seers kept casting within range of Cygors and then taking mortal wounds and plinking them off to the nearby Clan Rat units because he had to.
Man, that game was so awesome though. Yeah. But that game was so awesome. Kenrick actually just messaged me today. I think he was watching that one because he said, I really liked your game of Skaven versus Slaves to Darkness. And I was like, I don't know if I've ever played that match, now that I think about it on stream anyway. And I think he might mean our game. One. That game was crazy. Like, absolutely nuts. What an ending. So, and then...
like and subscribe, everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, but seriously, just watch that. Yeah, watch that. Endless Nightmare.
Battle Tactics 6.
Yep.
Pick one friendly Soulblight Gravelord summonable unit on the battlefield. You complete it if 6 or more slain models are returned to the unit during this turn. So this is either very hard or very easy, depending on the list construction, I think.
Oh, I see.
Because you're probably getting 3 models back to Deathly Invocation each turn on units that you care about. But there's not too many other ways in the book anymore to bring back more models than that. I think the easy way to go about this battle tactic is if you've got a 20 block or more of skeletons that have lost a few models, because they get to roll basically a 4-up rally at the beginning of every combat phase.
I see. Yeah. That's a great point.
I think that's the easy mode. If you've got a big enough block of skeletons to absorb some damage, then you can score this battle tactic. Otherwise, I'm sure there's ways to do it. I'm just not sure what they are.
Do skeletons get to do that even if they're not in combat? I think so, right?
Yes.
So, wow. Okay. So you could just like automatically do it, basically. Right.
So it's still like it's dicey because you're still rolling 4-ups to bring skeletons back, and you still need to do at least 3 if you've already tapped the unit with Deathly Invocation.
Right.
So it's not an auto pass, but like if your unit of skeletons is beat to hell and it's got 3 models left and you had 20, then that's a lot of 4-ups to fail to not get this battle tactic.
But if you have if you have even say 10 guys, right?
Yep.
You're missing. Deathly Invocation +3, right?
Yep.
Then Virkos thing +D3. You could get it just there.
I don't know that counts, because the Virkos heroic action adds D3 models to the unit, but that's not. This says returning slain models.
Interesting.
So I don't know that interaction works that way.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
So this is Endless Nightmare is a good battle tactic, but
because it says returned.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I think you're right.
But
I don't think it works.
It is list construction dependent. If you don't have the right units or the right tech in your list, this one can just be unscorable. But you've got enough other good ones that's not really a big deal.
Nice. Keith says he also didn't know about the whole ward thing until they brought it up on Warhammer Weekly. I still haven't seen that one. I watched their OBR one and I watched their Slanesh one, but I didn't get to see the Soulblight one, so I'll have to check that out.
So that gets us through all of the neutral stuff. How do you want to go through the war scrolls here? Yeah, there's a billion of them.
Yeah, there's so many, and why don't we just touch on the ones? Let's do a highlight reel of the stuff you really like. Like maybe we'll do like a top 10 kind of thing.
Okay.
What's your favorite war scroll in the entire book?
Neferata.
Neferata. I was gonna say. Yeah, if it's not Neferata, it's got to be the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
You've guessed my number 2.
Yeah. It's like I'm clairvoyant or something. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Seraphon and looking at Seraphon lately, so I can kind of see the future. Yeah.
I think definitely taking a peek at both Mortarks, some of the Virkos heroes, and the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon is worth all touching on, and Death Rattle Skeletons, probably zombies as well.
Right. I think so. I think I agree. So anyway, Neferata is 14 wounds. Was she 14 wounds last time, or was she 12?
She was 12.
I thought so. Okay. So 14 wounds now on a 3-up, which is really good. She has 5 attacks from Amet Har.
Well, she has 6 attacks because she's Legion of Blood.
Right, so she always has 6 attacks unless you take her for some reason.
Unless you take her out of Legion of Blood.
Yeah, which is the best one, so why would you do that? 5 attacks, 3s and 3s. And is this the one that auto kills?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember it had minus...
So it used to hit on 2s, but it also used to have rend 1. So
and it used to only be 4 attacks, right?
No, it was 5 before.
Oh, was it? So it's 5 to 6. Okay. But yeah, minus 1 rend before, 1 damage. And if they're a hero at the end and you cause a wound with that dagger, you roll a dice. Same as before, and a 5-up, it auto kills them. Watch Carson and Roman's battle report for how that may or may not have happened. It was a fun moment. And then you've got Aachen.
She's got a bunch of attacks. She picked up a few more. Akenseth got 1 more attack.
Yep.
Everything else gets plus attacks from Legion of Blood, which it didn't before. The flashy part of her War Scroll is the Dagger of Jet, but the big parts are everything after the words Twilight's Allure. Like, everything else on the War Scroll is incredible. Twilight's Allure used to be a command ability that did the same thing, but now it's always on. It just subtracts 1 from hit rolls made by melee weapons that target Legion of Blood units wholly within a foot of her, so she just projects a -1 to hit bubble all the time.
So good.
You used to have to turn this on with command points, but you don't anymore. Mortark of Blood is deceptively cool. At the end of deployment, before determining control of objectives. Am I still here?
Oh yeah, no. I just wanted to make sure that I just noticed it wasn't on the screen. So for people who
before determining control of objectives, you can pick up to 3 friendly Legion of Blood units on the battlefield. You remove them all from the battlefield and set them up again wholly within your territory. Then remove those friendly. You remove them from the battlefield, set it up again. Is this doubled?
What's that?
First, remove this unit for... Oh, I see. She removes herself first, and then she redeploys the others too. So the tricky part about this is that this, I believe, overrides the requirement to stay outside of 9 of your opponent's territory. Because
it says wholly within your territory.
Yeah. But so when you're doing setup, in most battle plans, like when your when your territories are squashed together, you have to deploy outside of a 9-inch bubble of the halfway line, right? But
Yeah.
this, I don't think, still has that requirement. I believe
That's
that this just allows you
crazy.
to replace them anywhere within your territory.
I don't
So-
think that's on purpose. Like, I think it should be asked in an FAQ.
So what people have been doing with this is picking up Neferata and 3 Vampire Lords on zombie dragons and then parking them 9 inches closer to the enemy.
That's crazy. I think that needs an FAQ. Like, it's rules as written. You're absolutely right. They're right.
I agree. Neferata is probably going to go up points and is probably going to get an FAQ or 2 because right now she is bonkers.
I didn't even realize that part of her, and she's already crazy.
She's already the best thing in the book, even if you were not using that rule at all.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
The hunger is new and improved. It's not heal D3 wounds if they kill something. Now it's if they do any damage, they heal damage dealt up to 6 as a maximum. All vampires have this.
All vampires have it, so we're not going to mention it every time, but it's just called the hunger. They all get
You'll notice on small units, you'll say, oh, but wait, Roman, this hunger on True Blades doesn't have the cap of 6. Yeah, but True Blades only have like 2 or 3 wounds, so it doesn't matter. They
and
just
you're not
get
bringing
unlimited
units
healing
back with it either,
so
it doesn't matter.
And then lastly is Dark Mist. Her spell, it didn't change.
Pick a
friendly unit within a foot. Wholly within, casting value is 6 + 1 because she's Legion of Blood.
Yep.
To cast
if she's not in combat.
If she's not in combat. Yeah. And then she makes either herself or a friendly unit wholly within a foot unrendable. They ignore negative modifiers to saves, but not positive modifiers. So this is again that multi-zombie dragon list that's floating around right now. One of them has the cloak, another one has this spell. You have a zombie dragon with a 2-up unrendable and another one with a 3-up unrendable, and they're punching you in the face and they're healing for 6 damage a turn. And they're just it's really difficult to deal with.
It's super hard to deal with. I couldn't even deal with that one zombie dragon on a 3-up unrendable. I mean, eventually, but by then. Anyway, Dark Mist is the best spell in the game.
She is also a double caster.
Yep.
As
she should be. She's a Mortark.
And she flies, and about the only thing she lost on her War Scroll is that her little spectral claws and talons don't do 6s on mortal wounds on 6s to hit anymore.
Yeah, it was just 1, and the attack sequence stopped. But everyone's losing that, it seems like, so it's par for the course. I mean, she gains so much.
This is just an insanely powerful War Scroll.
Yeah.
Like if she had take Dagger of Jet, Twilight's Allure, Mortark of Blood, and Dark Mist, and take any 2 of those 4, and she's still probably the best thing in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm nodding down at Keith's comment, Dark Mist, casting value 6. Yep.
Which is most of the time actually a 5, because you're casting it from outside of combat.
By far, most of the time, for sure. Yeah, so good. Really, really good. Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, anyone?
Sure, let's go look at that. Or do we want to just scroll back up to Manfred first and touch on him?
Sure. Yeah, that works. Manfred.
He's 1 page up from Neferata.
Yeah, I started scrolling first.
So he got weird.
Weird. He was always weird.
He wasn't gained 2 wounds as well, like Neferata.
Yep.
He got a little bit cheaper, I think, because I think he was at 400 even before, so I think he lost 10 points.
Yep.
But he also lost his teleport around the table whenever he wanted to.
Arguably the best ability in the game.
He also lost his command ability completely, which used to be spend a command point, project a 1-foot bubble of +1 to hit, +1 to wound.
Right.
To answer Leviticus, when she goes up 50 points, you still take her, right? I think she could probably be an even 500, and I'd think about it.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Yeah.
For Manfred, he's still got the Armored Templehoff. It works exactly the same as before. He ignores the first wound or mortal wound each phase. The Sword of Unholy Power is different now. It used to be if he killed anything, he would project a 1-foot bubble of +1 attack to all Soulblight Gravelords units, I believe.
Yeah, I think
it's right. Now it was summonable before.
It's summonable now.
But now it's keyword locked behind Legion of Night. Before it used to just be Soulblight.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So this is why double Mortarch lists are dead now because all of
Yeah.
Neferata and Manfred's cool stuff is locked behind their factions, unfortunately. So I can't play my beloved double Mortarchs anymore, and
Aw.
they won't be good.
That's true.
The other thing they changed here is that you have to allocate wounds caused by Geistvor, which is the sword that triggers this ability, last, which means whatever you are trying to gain this bubble of attacks off of has to survive all of his other damage profiles first.
It's really lame. Yeah.
Mortarch of Night is very neat. He always gets the strike first effect when he charges, and when he receives a redeploy command, he can attempt to charge instead of redeploying.
That's fun. Yeah.
So this is an out-of-phase, enemy movement phase charge attempt.
Yeah.
So it gets around Unleash Hell, it gets around all sorts of stuff, and it can really foul up an enemy that doesn't see it coming.
Yep.
And it's another way for him to have his army charge out of sequence, because both he and one of his Legion of Night units can both attempt charges.
Yeah.
So say like something moves up, he charges it, and then your enemy counter charges to try and save whatever it is that Manfred is just connected with, and you can then counter charge one of your own units into that growing mess in the middle of the board.
Right. And it's sorry, it was under. Is it under Mortarch of Night? Yeah.
Mortarch of Night is what does that. Yeah. So that's the new cool ability. So he, like Blood Knights, is kind of stuck in combat now. When he gets stuck in combat,
Right.
He can't just leave anymore.
So the only thing, like a couple of things I wanted to point out about Mortarch of Night. One is that you have to give him the redeploy command.
Right.
It specifically says that, so you cannot redeploy one thing and charge him in or redeploy with him as well, because you're limited to once per turn. And then the other thing was, this is because it's happening in the enemy movement phase, so you can actually do this before they even get to try and charge you.
Yep.
Because
your enemy is also going to have to be really careful about the order in which they move units.
Yes.
In a way that they may not be used to, because they might be thinking about, stopping a redeploy or boxing something in, and then dangle a unit that gets charged when they would have preferred you hit something else.
And also, like, there's things out there like the Unmade that turn off redeploys. There's things out there that just teleport inside of 7, but then you don't get to redeploy because you didn't. It's a setup move. It's not a move. So there is some counterplay to this, but it's a really fun ability, and I really like it, actually.
Yeah, overall he's got some technical tricks, but he's gotten, I think, just way less good than his old ability. That
one ability was just crazy. Just that one ability just make him unkillable in melee, essentially.
And then Wind of Death is his spell. He's also got the Hunger. Casts on a 7, range of 18. You pick one enemy unit, and that unit takes on a 3 up. The unit being rolled for takes D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So it's a meteor. You pick one unit, and then that unit and each other enemy unit within 6 inches on a 3 up takes D3 mortal wounds.
I always think of Manfred in Total War casting this, and you could do it in a line down the enemy units. It used to be able to just eat up a whole army in one spell if you cast it right, and it kept feeding. It would go anyway. I always want the spell to be so good because it felt so good to play him in Total War 1. Okay, so now Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
I'm scrolling down. We could touch on the Volgas as we go by. Ivya and Belladama are both cool. Ivya's going to be much better once she's not competing with GCs.
I want to point out one thing. Radikar the Wolf now has the add attacks within 12 inches to summonable units, which is really cool. Like, you don't have to take Chadakar. You can take Radikar instead if you don't have the points and you just wanted some utility there.
I wouldn't do this.
I agree. I'm just saying it's better than before. He was the worst before. Like, there was never a reason to take him before.
The reason I wouldn't do it is because the Vampire Lord on foot just gets to add. Plus, I get that this is a bubble.
Yes.
Isn't it?
It's a bubble. Yeah, it's within 12 inches. Yeah.
The Vampire Lord on foot can do this to one summonable unit for free without requiring a charge, and is 10 points cheaper.
But Little Taco Girl is my counter argument. Like, why not both?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think the big downside of taking the wolf is that you don't take the beast, which has always been the problem with him.
that's true, but like sometimes there were times where I was just like, I can't quite fit the beast.
Yeah, if you're just short on points.
If only he weren't trash, you know.
Every single one of these named characters basically in this book is a war master.
Yeah.
So you're always getting double generals.
Right.
Like all game long, as long as you've got a named vampire somewhere on the table.
Although it doesn't look like Radikar has it. Funny enough.
No, it's the big ones. It's Vordry, both Mortarks, Belladama.
Belladama fair, yeah. And also he can get bodyguarded by Kasargi Night Guard, which is kind of a fun. There's not a lot of bodyguarding in this. I just think that's cool. Worth pointing out. Sorry, what was I supposed to move on to?
I'm just like sort of like stabbing as I go by. Bella's the
Radikar
+1
has
natural
changed.
caster in the book. She's cool.
That's true. But Radikar is now -1 to hit and wound.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. Is he the same points? I don't remember.
I think he got 20 points cheaper, but he also got the summon wolves lifted from his war scroll.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because he used to be basically 185 points because he was summoning 130 points of wolves for you, and now anybody can do that.
Yeah. I guess.
So I don't know.
The upshot to him is you can give him like 5-up ward bubble around him, which is kind of fun.
Yep. He's a good fighty foot hero. Like he's not. I like him. He's okay.
I do too.
I think he bears testing.
Yeah.
He's very Torgilius, we've mentioned a couple of times. He is a 5-up ward bubble specifically to Virkos summonables, so he's worth taking in a Virkos army.
You said Torgilius?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got that 5-up board. I did want. Could we just touch on Evia Volga, the new character? She's the only new character in the book. I think she has play. What do you think? Like.
I think she's got play too. I think she's a neat little. I said it as we went by before, but I think she will see more play once she's not competing for points with GCs. Once that GHB goes away, I think that she may pop out a little bit more because we're not paying that foot hero tax.
Because for her points, just like you can send her into monsters and it's like.
Yeah, well, so her special ability is if any enemy monsters are within 3 inches of this unit, it counts as 10 models for the purposes of contesting objectives. In addition, each enemy model that is within 3 inches of this unit, the attack's characteristics of that monster's melee weapons is 1.
Yeah.
So this, and it doesn't specify that monster can't be a hero.
Yeah.
This is just insane at nerfing your opponent's big monster piece down to dealing like almost no damage.
Exactly. Like you could have her next to a unit of Graveguard, for example, and if they charge in their monster into that unit, you can make it so that their monster sucks. And even if they attack, like let's say they split their attacks between Evia and your summonable unit, then she'll still make their attacks suck, even if they kill him with 1 attack profile, because the attacks, they don't get resolved until the end of the phase.
They basically, it's sort of a taunt. They have to attack Ivya to start getting their full attack profiles, but then even if they wipe Ivya off the table, your stuff has had a full turn of swinging at that monster without being swung back at.
Exactly, and she gets stronger. Her bats are just empowered somehow, and you get 12 attacks. And I mean, they're 4s and 4s, but still, like it's better than nothing. She's 6 wounds. I really like her. But sorry. Anyway, what we did Torgilius, right?
Yeah, and I'll say going by Bella, she does everything she used to do. She hasn't really changed much. She got a little cheaper. If you are taking Virkos, you should probably take her too.
I don't disagree with that.
Kritza is probably worth mentioning.
Oh
we don't
my
need to talk
god,
about,
he's
don't
so
really need to talk
awesome.
about this. He's got some cool Skaven-y stuff going on, but his big thing that you may miss is that summonable keyword on him. So he is a unique hero that can be brought back out of gravesites and from other heroes after he dies. He used to do that on a War Scroll ability. They just rolled it into the better resummoning.
And he could keep coming back too, which was crazy.
Well, now I don't think he can.
Not anymore, but before. And dude, like, okay, so at the start of the combat phase, you pick 1 enemy unit within 1 inches and that has an artifact of power. On a 3-up, they just lose their artifact of power, right? So you can charge him in, roll the 3-up, and then piss off.
Yeah, I think that's cute. I don't think that unless you're mirroring into the Legion of Blood.
Oh,
On the other side, I
that's
don't know that there
dirty.
are too many artifacts that are so linchpin that it's going to really ruin your opponent's game if you lose it.
Well,
And you're paying like 150 points for this guy just to run him into presumably their biggest thing and then die.
well, what if he teams up with Evia? You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Like,
uses.
there is definitely some use. Like, there's just heroes that are really really good, because they're just this linchpin artifact holding, unit.
I think into a broad field like a tournament setting, he's hard to justify.
Interesting.
He does stuff and he's summonable,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the rest of it makes him worth bringing over, say, a regular foot vampire.
That's fair. I love him, but I mean I love Skaven and vampires. So
Yeah, I mean he's fun.
Yeah.
He's very fun.
Like,
So definitely use him.
if they had named this character after me, if he was named Rob from like North Vancouver or something crazy, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is clearly created for me personally. No, I love him. I love the model. I love everything about him. So I really want to try him out, and I've got him, but I don't have him painted. Cool. Sorry. So, and then next, so we haven't talked about Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon.
Which we need to.
Yeah. Second best unit, arguably.
Yep. So it's
Oof.
it's gained 2 more wounds, I believe. I think it used to be 14, now it's 16.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, the breath got a lot better.
Lot
It's
better.
variable attacks now, but it's just a flat 3 damage with rend.
I don't like the variable attacks. I wish it was like
No.
2 plus D3 even or something like that. Just,
So it used to be D3, or it used to be 3 rend instead of 1 rend, but it
Yeah.
also only used to be a single attack instead of D6 attacks. So
Yeah.
looking at it from the perspective of how it used to be, it's a flat improvement because minimum it's the same as it was.
it used to be D6 damage, and
Yeah.
you could re-roll that with Feated Miasma
Yeah,
mount
with the mount
trait,
trait.
which is gone. But yeah, it's better now for sure.
Yep.
But
So the things here are the
Deathlands is better.
the Deathlands is better.
Yeah.
If you're taking this in Legion of Blood, it's probably unrendable, and it gains +1 attacks to every profile you see there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's automatically blocks Inspiring Presence while it's within 3 inches of enemy units, just like a Mega Gargant.
Yep.
And it's got a War Scroll spell. It's sort of a soft Wargog Prophet. But it can't hurt. But it can't hurt you,
soft.
and stops if the enemy negates the
Exactly.
negates the save.
Yep.
Or negates the mortal wounds dealt. It doesn't bracket as hard as it used to. These things are very fighty. With the hunger, they're extremely resilient. They can be very, very easy to hurt a little bit and very, very difficult to shave off the table completely.
True. Yeah. You need to kind of almost kill them in one go.
And it got 20 points cheaper than it used to be, I think. Something like that.
I thought it was the same. But
No, maybe. It's
no,
440 now.
Oh, it's 440 now? Then I think
Yeah.
it's 20 points
Did it
more
get-
expensive.
Did it get more expensive?
I think so. I think it was 420
Okay.
before, and Vordry was like 460, and then they.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I
to
could
me.
be wrong, but I think they went up. Like
Either
20.
way, so this thing is notable for being 20 points cheaper than 10 Blood Knights in Legion of Blood.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, man.
So
yeah, and
this
just access to
thing
more
is just
things.
incredible in Legion of Blood.
So true.
In other legions, I think worth looking at still is a big monster piece. Like even
Yep.
if its save is rendable with the right artifacts and some support, it's still a very fighty monster that's good for its cost. And because of the hunger, it'll hang around longer than your opponent expects it to.
Absolutely.
So I think good everywhere. Takes several in Legion of Blood.
I mean, even in Virkos, you can give it the 5-up ward save bubble.
Yep.
In Castellai, you can have it getting the extra. You can give it what do you call it? Like anytime someone achieves one of the Castellai vampire abilities, he gets it too, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So just have him.
And if you take the red casket in Castellai, this is a 17-inch move.
Yeah.
Right? Something like is it +3 to run and charge, isn't it? Not +3 to move.
Oh, that's true. But then it's going to be +1. It'll be 15-inch move
Very
as well.
fast.
Very fast, exactly. So
Yep.
yeah. And then it's got, it has -3 rend and 3 damage if it made a charge with the Death Lance. 4 attacks in Legion of Blood. Like, there's so many different things you can do with it. It's really fun. -3 rend now on the Snapping Maw for -2. Oops, sorry. My alarm. Oh man. Like, do you see one in every army probably?
Probably not every army. That Virkos army didn't take one, for instance.
Yeah, I can see not taking it in Virkos. Yeah.
Certainly, if you're starting your list building with riding Legion of Blood, you're putting at least one of these in it.
Right. Cool. Okay. What else we got?
Let's go skip the rest of the characters. We'll stop on Blood Knights just to say that they got significantly worse, I think.
Yeah. It's so sad.
Pending how the FAQ works, right now people are using like movement and charge and pile-ins to deal mortal wounds to stuff that's low enough wounds to do that. If what they're moving over has 3 or fewer wounds, or
it should work. It still works on Noblars and everything else that applies to that.
Some people are arguing that because you shouldn't be able to pile in over the models and then back because that's a movement away, but you're not ending up further away. No. So I think it's still all right.
It still works. It's the same as the Doom Wheel. It's the same as a bunch of stuff. I don't see there's any way that they're going to FAQ just this, especially when they're already kind of bad. Like in the up against like screens or things with 3 or fewer wounds, these things can really grind out quite a few mortals. Yeah.
Like it's not terrible. But the fact that they're just stuck in combat now after their first charge, when before they could freely leave and move around the table, makes them significantly worse.
Yeah.
And they went up 30 points.
That's crazy. And all that for an extra pip of rend, like.
And I think an extra point of reach.
You think you're right, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes them a little easier to fight in 2 ranks, but they
Keith overall said it best. Blood Knights are the only nerf to Dark Mist.
Blood Knights are my other thing that I wanted not to change in this book, and they did. So
they sure did.
Yeah, they are one of the biggest losers of this very good book.
Yeah, it's true. Should we talk about Askurgan True Blades?
Just to mention, I guess, that they are vampires. Yep. And so are potentially, you want to look at these for things like Castellai, which might gain bonuses for killing enemies.
I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again. Legion of Night with these guys, countercharging, and then making something fight last, I think is dope.
Yeah, it's only a 4-up fight last, though, so it's dicey.
It's not, though. It's not. It's a 3-up.
Add 1 to each curse. Oh, for each curse blood, okay.
Each curse blood, and that's the last thing to die.
So you could make that a 2-up, right? If you reinforce the unit.
Exactly.
A weird 16-strong unit of True Blades wandering around the table with a couple of werewolves.
As long as you kill the werewolf off last, you're good.
Yeah. Ludivicus wants us to pick a worst thing, and
The worst thing? Like, okay, no, you have to define that more specifically, Divicus. Okay, is it just the worst thing in the book, or is it the worst, like, change?
Because if it's the biggest loser compared to how it used to be, it's Blood Knights.
It's Blood Knights. It's 100% it's Blood Knights. If it's just the worst thing,
if it's the thing I never take, and we're ruling out the Underworld's warbands, it's probably Vargeists.
It's still Vargeist. Yeah, I didn't like them in the last one. They do have the vampire keyword though, but
yeah, but I think they did before too. They gained the hunger, which
they did before. They did before for sure. They had the vampire keyword. I remember because you could upgrade them in Castellai, but
they do have the hunger now, which makes them a little bit better.
Yeah. I don't know. I maybe Vargeist, which is unfortunate because there's such a cool old model that I really like.
So let's hit skeletons, black knights, and zombies, and then that's probably all.
Okay.
That's significant changes to touch on. White Kings and mounted White Kings are summonable now.
Yes, yeah, and they still make. Don't they both make Graveguard battle line now?
Battle line, yes, they do.
And it was only the White King on Skeletal Steed before, and you could only buy him in the pack. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong. I actually hope I'm wrong because that annoyed the bejeebers out of me last time. But and you can make them. The White King can still do the thing on or is it anything or Graveguard? Oh, it's skeletons basically.
Any death rattle, right?
Yeah, any death rattle, they
Yeah.
basically do.
So Graveguard used to be battle line if a White King was the general. It didn't specify mounted or not.
Okay, I totally missed that. That's good to know. I overlooked the regular White King. I'm still waiting for the Sons of Belmore or whatever they're called to come out. I just want to substitute this old White King for the new guy. Is so badass.
They're great models.
Yeah.
I have an old Richter Kruger who's standing in for my White King.
Sick. I love it. That's really cool.
So
the White King on Ethereal Steed, though, we should mention that he combines really well with the Black Knights to make their charges better.
And Black Knights are what I wanted to touch on because these are one of the big winners of
before I forget, Keith was actually, I was in the middle of saying that, and then he mentioned it. The White King on Steed was only available in the Start Collecting Me for, which was that was such a bum move.
They released it about 5 minutes as a separate kit about 5 minutes after the Battle Tome came out this time around. He's available as a separate kit now.
Indeed. Yeah, he basically came out with them, with the new book, which I appreciate, finally. I'm glad I never bought Start Collecting because I didn't like the old Graveguard. So, and then, Black Knights, when they charge, 5-up mortals now.
So when they charge, each model in the unit rolls 2 dice, and then on a 5-up they deal mortals.
That's an important distinction.
And the mounted White King turns those into 4-ups instead of 5-ups. So these guys are hitting like, I don't know, an ogre unit that's rolled a 10 on its charge.
Yeah.
With a White King behind it for 115 points.
Even better because they get 2 dice each.
Well, that's why, but they only come in 5s.
They only come in 5s, but
so
you can reinforce
5
them.
models roll 10 dice and do wounds on a 4-up.
Oh, I see what you're saying now. I got it. Yeah. But by the same token, you could reinforce them, right?
Yeah. Well, but I don't think and you could because it's per model. It's not reliant on their charge.
Oh yeah, that's true. And there's no real point in not, because then you're more reliable if you have.
Yeah. And because it's after this unit makes a charge move, pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit. It's not based on model. You just need to make contact with a single model, and you get the whole unit's worth of rolling. So these are a thing that, like, looking at what these do.
Yep.
How fast they are, how cheap they are. They're summonable, so they can recur.
Right.
They get a minimum charge of 6 with their musician.
Yeah.
These things are, I think the only reason these aren't a huge problem is because nobody in the world owns enough of them to make them a huge problem.
They're such a pain in the ass to put together as well.
But like you could field an army with like 50 of these and still have 800 points to spend.
That's crazy. I love it.
Like these are potentially really good as like varied waves. Well,
you just give Poxus an idea.
I look forward to seeing you at Worlds, friend.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, these masked Black Knights is a thing I want to see someone do, because I think that played well, it does a lot of damage and doesn't care that you do damage back.
And you want to take them in Legion at night, right?
I guess for the counter charge, just for more charging opportunities. Like, you're already cluttering up the board with a bazillion freaking cavalry that are racing around at 12 inches all over the place. You could do this in Virkos with the command trait that lets you make the 3-inch normal move in the hero phase to set up better charges.
Yeah, I could totally see that as well.
You might also take this in Castellai or in Virkos just to get re-rolled charges.
That's true.
Just to make sure you connect.
Like, man, I really would I want to try this in Legion of Night. I mean, I'm not going to buy those models, so. Maybe someone will let you proxy eels. They're on the same base size. Yeah, I've got a lot of those.
Because there's something to these. They look very, very good for their points, and again, I think the only reason that they're not seeing massed play is that very few players actually own a lot of them, and they're hard to find.
The chat's commenting on
the mustache twirl of approval.
Mustache twirl, Carson's. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Like it.
Looks at EJ.
Double trampling charge. I like it. I'm a Soulblight player now.
Yeah, that's true.
Black Knights are also battle line in Legion of Blood.
Right. That's wild. So the rich get richer again.
Although then you're not taking vampires, which is where all your bonuses are.
That's true, but still.
But still,
Sheesh.
if you wanted to do something weird and janky, maybe you just do this.
Yeah.
Maybe you take 50 of these and Neferata and a zombie dragon.
Oh, gross. Graveguard. What do you think about Graveguard?
They got, I think, statistically worse because they flipped the great weapon profile. It used to be 3s to hit, 4s to wound, and now it's 4s to hit, 3s to wound. So you used to be able to get them down to 2s to hit with an all-out attack, and because your mortal wounds are coming out of your to wound rolls, having the effective -1 to hit is a big like a downward spike to their potential damage output.
That's true.
It's
a melee weapon though, right?
Yeah. It puts their damage output. It makes their 2 weapon choices actually kind of a decision to make now, instead of great weapons just being clearly the better one.
Well, and I could be wrong, but before, if you took the shield, wasn't it at +1 to your save instead of save characteristic change?
Oh, maybe.
So that's actually a big deal if you're buffing them. With Mystic Shield and stuff like that, they can get to a 3.
There is a serious discussion to be had here about not taking them with great weapons anymore and trying to turn them into kind of like an anvil unit.
Yeah.
But is like, the problem here is that Graveguard are a 5-up, like base, they're a 5-up save on 1 wound.
Yep.
Which puts them at exactly as resilient as skeletons for like twice the price. This is an expensive anvil in an army that already has very good anvils.
That's a good point. I really want to try them in Virkos with a 5-up ward.
Yep.
But
I'm a little down on Graveguard right now. I've taken my normal block of 20. They've been failing a lot of charges, so they're gonna probably go back in the drawer for a while. It feels bad after playing a lot of Beasts of Chaos and having a unit pop out of the wilderness and not be succeeding on a 5 for a charge.
No doubt there, yeah.
But these guys they're okay. They still do the same, like they're the same War Scroll they were. Their damage has fallen a little and their cost has not. So they've technically received a small nerf.
Yeah, I agree with that. And sorry, what was the next one you wanted to touch on? I'll just mention this. I'll mention super quick. Zombies are a huge difference. They're no longer doing mortals on 6s to hit, and now they do 5-ups. Unless you have a corpse cart nearby. Corpse carts are very easy to kill, though.
Talk about all the battle line choices.
Oh, sure, okay.
But what are we looking at with Belladama here?
Belladama.
Under the Killing Moon.
Yeah. Are you talking about her spell?
Mm-hmm. So Hoxus is pointing out use these in combination with Bella because her War Scroll spell gives you exploding 6s, so you get 2 hits for every 6 to hit, which gives you more chance to get 6s on the 2 wounds to spam.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, that's a great idea actually.
That's a good tech call. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I definitely look hard at Graveguard with Inavirkos with Bella.
And it's a good, you should point out, or we should point out that statistically +1 to hit is the same as exploding 6s. So
I guess it does give, is it?
I believe so.
Okay.
As long as it's just a regular +1 like dice instead of +2.
That Virkos list that we talked about earlier, the 5-0 Virkos list did take Bella and a block of 20 Graveguard.
Heck yeah.
So Deadwalker Zombies don't pile in 6 anymore. That's on Dire Wolves now.
Yep.
They used to have 2 attacks each before? Because I feel like they only had one.
Yeah, I think they had 1 before.
Yeah. Yeah, they only had 1. So they've doubled their attacks. They still hit on 5s. They wound on 4s now, which is better than before. But they don't get 6s to mortals. They don't do 6s. Unless, you know what
yeah.
When they roll a 6 to hit, they no longer do a mortal wound.
But you do get you get that with a corpse cart, but they are really easy to kill.
The corpse cart is worse because the corpse cart is 6s to wound, not 6s to hit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not notice that.
And so when you're hitting on 5s, that's pretty garbo anyway.
It's true. But you know why I actually like these guys more now? is
Is
because I was never taking a giant thing. I was always using them as screens, and now they just function better as a speed bump.
Yeah. So the new Drag Down and Torn Apart, where each time a model is slain, you roll a die, and on a 5-up they deal a mortal wound to their attacker, is what I meant when I said it's fair squigs. Because you can't shotgun it out to everything within 9 inches.
Yeah.
It has to do the thing that kills you. But this still, if you have a block of like 40 or 60 zombies, that's going to make like a Stonehorn kind of question whether or not that's something they really want to commit to. Because that can be, like, zombies will die fast, and that's a lot of mortal wounds potentially back. So they're really great at being taken in big blocks and just jamming up a section of table and making it kind of difficult for your opponent to chew through it, rather than being an outright damage threat like they used to be.
Agreed, and I think this is more thematic too.
They still get extra zombies back on a 2-up, but that has to be from attacks that zombies do, which is going to be almost nothing ever, except to the worst of screens.
It's that part's kind of lame, but okay. And
so very, very cool. Have a neat roll, not as good as skeletons, I think.
I agree. 100%. Direwolves.
Direwolves pile in 6 now. They lost the +1 to hit and wound on the charge. That's what they do. They're a big fast screen. They're chunkier than your other units or your other battle line on like a point for point basis, because they have a better save than zombies. Zombies have a save now.
Yeah.
But direwolves are the battle line unit you take when you want to get places and then hold the line there, or you want a chunkier screen than zombies will provide you.
Agreed. I like him. Fellbats are not battle line unless you're in, was it Legion of
Nope. Yeah, that's right.
And then,
Fellbats haven't significantly changed.
No, they can still retreat and charge, which is really cool. If you can send them into, like a really, really small unit that's not going to kill them or doesn't have the capacity. And then they have the hunger now, which they didn't before, which is kind of fun. 14 inches. They're like 70 points, I think, or 75 points. And
they're 85 points.
85 points. Oh, they went up.
They're the same cost as a unit of skeletons, which is why it's so hard to justify them at the moment.
But they're so fast. 14
they are
inches,
so fast.
And you can throw them in front, and it's like, okay, you can not kill these if you want, but I'm going to score. It's either going to help me with my grand strategy of you killing off units and me bringing more units back, or it's going to help me by just helping me score, what's it called? Desecrate or something like that. Anyway, I think they're cool. And if you just, I guess you're probably taking skeletons, but Corpse
I think
Guard,
you're thinking of expand the Grave Empires, where you want to be holding 2 objectives outside your territory with summonables or vampires.
No, I was just thinking that, like, for my grand strategy, it's like they're easier to make them kill off, or they're also good for getting the Callous Overlord, because they have an even worse save, and you can just make sure that they get in. Like, you could just throw them into a unit of squigs, and it's like, I'm gonna get Callous Overlord. Like,
that's
gonna happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can throw a lot of things into squigs and count on them to get killed.
Yeah, I know, but these guys are cheap and they're effective at getting up the board to like get in there and do that. Like, you could get 2 battle tactics off of 1 unit of Fellbats. First, you get Desecrate because they fly into the back. They fly like 20 inches with an auto run, and then they get Desecrate, and then the next turn they move over and they get you Callous Overlord because they die, and then they can even help you get your grand strategy. I think there's play with them. I think they're a little overpointed. I don't know why they're 85 points. Like, the Terra Wings and Seraphon are just better in most ways. And anyway, so
yeah, I don't know that they're unfairly pointed. I'm just not sure. Like, it's might be that other things are pointed very well, and so they feel bad by comparison.
That's possible. You want to talk about Death Rattle Skeletons?
I do. It's the last thing. The last thing I think I want to touch on.
I think I'm good for that. Yeah.
Unless you two have anything else you want to that jumps out at you from the book, or chat has anything they want us to talk about, go back and spend 30 minutes on Vargheists maybe. But Death Rattle Skeletons, I think, are one of the biggest winners of this book. Right. Like, they just are. They were pretty good before. They're very good now.
Yep.
So they have just a single attack, 4s and 3s, sort of no rend, and 1 damage. The unit does get a point of rend, weirdly, if they outnumber the thing they're fighting.
That's fun.
so they get extra rend against elite units. But the big deal is skeleton legions. So in the last book, this was when they were chosen to fight in combat.
Yep.
You would roll a die for each skeleton that you had lost that phase, and on a 4-up you would get those skeletons back. So the unit slowly whittled down to nothing.
And it encouraged you to go second.
Yeah, it encouraged you to stall your skeletons' activations out to get hit and then recover some guys.
Yeah.
New Skeleton Legion is at the start of the combat phase, roll a die for each slain model from this unit. On a 4-up, you can return 1 slain model to the unit. So effectively, every combat phase, yours and your opponent's, this unit gets a free 4-up rally that doesn't take a command point and can't be blocked in any way.
Yep. And
pretty well the only limitation on this is if you return too many skeletons that you can't legally place them within an inch of somebody that was already there.
That's true.
So, like, if you get whittled down to, like, 3 guys and you're surrounded in combat, you may not be able to bring the 17 of them back.
That's true. Yeah, you probably won't. You wouldn't be able to if you're in combat still, for sure.
Just because there's not enough legal places to put them.
Exactly. Yeah.
But besides, this is amazing. It works in combat. It works out of combat. It happens every combat phase.
Right.
You roll for every missing guy. So, like, this sort of encourages you to take skeletons in blocks of 20 or so, so that you've got enough wounds to soak up some damage and then spike big, bringing them back.
Yeah.
For only 85 points for 10, these guys are really, really good.
Really good, yeah. The only problem, though, is the 4-inch move for me. They do have a champion, so you can auto-run them even if you don't have a hero nearby, but the 4 inches is rough. Like, it's really rough.
Well, the thing with these is because they're summonable in Soulblight, if you've got enough of them in the army and you plan ahead where you need your screens, you can start some of these underground.
Yep.
And then pop them out of graves freely over the course of the game and get them where you need them that way.
Totally. And in fact, you probably will. Not only that, but like in Legion of Night or something like that, you could run them forward in your turn, and then as soon as they move, within the distance, for counter charges and that kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of play here for them for sure.
Yep.
I like them a lot.
These guys are just stupendous for your battle line choice, and for me, it's just like everything else in this book. They're like, your choices are all good, and this is sort of clearly the best one. So the others are getting edged out just because Death Rattle Skeletons look so good. But you take what you need in your toolbox, and there really aren't wrong choices.
Totally. I agree with Ludivicus. Soulblights are the gold standard of board presence. Yeah, for sure. Keith was saying before, the zombies explode better than Stormcast. Yeah. Yes. Old books.
Yep. I expect Stormcast to improve the next time they get a battle tome with that trait for sure.
Yeah.
At the very least, they'll start rolling dice equal to their... Well, I think maybe it'll change to a 5-up.
It probably just changed to a 5-up. I don't know. Like, I think that was just...
I mean, maybe they'll all just get fight on death. Maybe they won't even explode anymore.
That would be better, or just something. Like, I feel like their whole design concept is a little bit...
In any case, for Soulblight, if you're looking for a first Soulblight army, or you're looking for you want to take something that's good right now in the army, if you just look at Neferata, Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, Death Rattle Skeletons, you've got an army that has all the tools to 5-0 right there if you play it well, and it's got a lot of good tricks. So start there, build outwards.
Yeah.
And if you want to do anything else in the book, there's also like lots of the bloodlines. I guess I can't say every, knowing that Avangori is in the book. But,
Avangori and, to a lesser extent, Castelli.
Lots of the bloodlines are great. There's a lot of neat tricks. This is, like, we'll bring it back to the beginning and say that this is an army that was already pretty okay, that just got better in almost every way. So it's going to do all the same things that it was doing okay, and now it's going to do them well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Is there anything else you want to touch on real quick before we call it a stream? I can't think
Carson, as an ogre player, how are you feeling about what you're seeing here? Are you thrilled about the possibility of unrendable 16 wound things with a ward save that can heal coming at you across the table?
Not particularly, but just gotta roll with the punches.
Yeah, well, masked mortal wounds is the way to take those things down.
Yeah, punches and kicks.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, someone's gonna rock into you and think that their unrendable save is going to save them, and they're just gonna get meat fisted to death.
That's what happens.
I mean, not a lot of meat on them bones, but
just enough.
Yeah, just enough. Just the gristle.
Bone marrow's tasty too.
That's true.
Don't forget.
Yep. That's true. That's something we can all agree on, I think. A life lesson. Wow, Roman, thank you so much. That was like a real tour de force. Thanks again.
Yeah, I think I talked a lot. Hopefully I didn't bore people too badly.
No, it was very interesting.
We all learned some things about vampires today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again to Carson, as always, for joining us.
I'm glad to sit here and talk once every 45 minutes.
you should talk
Hard
more.
To get a word in edgewise with me and Rob talking. Huh?
I actually don't. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, you're welcome to talk more as much as possible. And thanks to the chat. Thanks for the people who are hanging out. And thanks to the future people who will watch this and comment and like and subscribe.
Leave a comment if you'd like a Carson-only stream.
Yeah. Yes.
This is going to be me staring into the camera.
Just you doing like various like takes from Skyrim. Hello there, traveler. I used to be a warrior, and then
welcome to the meat dimension.
And then I ate too much meat. Yeah. Oh man. But yes. Anyway, thanks again for Roman, Carson, the chat, everyone. Thanks for watching. And next week it's going to be a chill stream. Carson has been dying for some some chill, fun streams. So come hang out and paint with us. I've got a couple of plans in the future, but some more mustache twirling, 20 minutes of mustache twirling. No, as Carson said earlier, that is premium content. But we've got some fun things planned for the channel in general. So more announcements to come. But yeah, thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.